All right. I am very happy to have this brother on. This is a brother who I have not met face to face, but he is a Facebook friend who I've been following for years. And he's always making on point posts when it comes to the issue of money, finances, investments, and what have you. And so, as you all know, for this podcast, it is always about having people who are serious people who are doing serious things in the world that I think that people would do well to know who they are, how they got to where they are, and what they're doing in terms of the tangible benefits of applying the steps that they've taken to better their lives. And that's what this podcast is all about. Very little theory, a lot of practice. So without further ado, let me just let the brother introduce himself.
Peace, and blessings. My name is Terrance SetepenRa Wilson. I'm a native of New Orleans, Louisiana. I lived in Memphis, Tennessee, 13 years after moving there after Hurricane Katrina. And I currently live in Los Angeles, California. I started reading books on financial literacy, entrepreneurship at a young age as a teen. And I became a Black nationalist as a teen as well. So it really collided perfectly, or a perfect combination. Currently what I do is I'm a loan broker. I'm a business loan broker where I help business owners and entrepreneurs access capital. For those who don't qualify, help them with their credit and build business credit. So that's in a nutshell.
Okay, so we're gonna take a deep dive into all of that. Let's talk about New Orleans, right? Now I'm gonna talk about New Orleans. I've been to New Orleans once in my life. I went there, I believe in around 2008. I went to perform, that was in my performance days when I was a poet, doing it professionally. And I went to perform at like a world music festival in New Orleans, and Dougie Fresh was performing, and Slick Rick was there, and I believe the rapper Common was there. A couple other folks were there, you know. So I stayed in New Orleans for a few days, man, and it was a really interesting city, you know, because I had done research on New Orleans, and you know, everyone knows about the Louisiana Purchase, and the French were controlling it for some time, and because of that French connection, there's a lot of similarities between New Orleans culture and Haitian culture, right? So there are a lot of people in New Orleans with Haitian relatives, and people used to travel back and forth between Haiti and New Orleans. And then when you start looking at what they call the cultural syncretism, where you have people from New Orleans engaged in a lot of religious practices that were very similar to what they do in Haiti, which they call voodoo. And then you also have the French Creole going on in New Orleans. So I went to Congo Square. You know, that's kind of obligatory for anybody who's serious about any type of Black culture. When you go to New Orleans, you know, the first level of people will go to Mardi Gras, but then the deeper level will go to Congo Square because of the history of Congo Square. So let's just talk a little bit about New Orleans, man. You growing up in New Orleans. So when you grew up in New Orleans, I know that there's the Cajun people, there's the Creole people, then there's the Bayou culture, and all these different things that go on in New Orleans. So just give me a little sense of New Orleans and you growing up in New Orleans, what that was like.
Sure. So of course, growing up in New Orleans, I was exposed to the Creole and Cajun culture, and then realizing later on, after studying and meeting people and coming across scholars like John Henrik Clarke or whatnot, understanding the Creole culture is more so connected to us as Black people, and Cajun is more so white people. Cajun was actually at one time a derogatory term.
Okay.
Those who were called Cajuns, that was the equivalent of being called the N-word. But of course, assimilated into culture, and now our foods are, you know, Cajun fried or Cajun meals or whatnot.
So the term Cajun was a term that white folks used to use derogatorily to other white folks?
Yes,
Almost like
yes,
how in America they would say someone is like white trash or something like that. That's what basically the upper class white people would call lower class white people. They would call them Cajun.
exactly,
Okay, that's very interesting.
exactly.
Okay, I wasn't even aware of that.
And through time, and of course, since Africans or Black people were uh, the common denominator of what they can come together and hating, of course, it became part of the culture. It became a selling part, a marketing piece.
Okay.
But yes, it was a derogatory term.
So let me just ask you a little something. So what is the difference in a Cajun person versus, I guess, what was that time, like a French bourgeoisie type of person? They spoke, you know, I guess they spoke proper French, and the Cajuns didn't necessarily speak proper French. Is that what was going on? What was the identifying factors to say this person's Cajun and then this person's a European white person?
So those who were Cajun, I think it was called Acadian. It came from Canada,
Oh,
and their language, it was a broken language, so it wasn't perfect English or
got it.
perfect, let's say, French.
Right.
And so it was a broken French.
Okay.
And so it was like, yes, you're lower class if you speak like this, or you're one of these people or whatnot.
Okay.
Then the the Congo Square, the significance of that was because of the Frenches, most of them were Catholic. Outside of other places where slavery was practiced, on Sundays, our ancestors were given time they were like, hey, you can use this time to go to church or, to worship. So our African ancestors, they would go to Congo Square, and that's where they were able to retain a lot of their culture. So it was at Congo Square, they would assemble, gather, they would share information, and of course, through song and dance, they would dress it up just in case there was someone who was spying on them.
Right. And
So,
I understand also in Congo Square was the only place that we could play drums because drums were outlawed. African drums were outlawed except for in Congo Square during that one day of the week, correct?
that is correct. That is correct because you play drums and you can communicate,
Hmm.
and you have the ability to communicate. Hey, it's time to an upheaval, time to take over, time to go to war. So of course, the French, they knew that, but at least they were like, hey, we'll let these slaves go and worship the way that they worship, and the other 6 days of the week, they'll work for us.
Okay. Now, what is the impact today of French culture in New Orleans or Louisiana? Because, everyone talks about New Orleans, there are different parts of Louisiana. New Orleans gets most of the shine. How permeated is French culture? I know that people still carry French last names, but how permeated is French culture? Is it related also to, well, it probably isn't, but I know that I met someone from Louisiana and they were teaching me how to speak Pidgin English. And it was really interesting, the rules of adding like A at the back of a word or something like that. I don't know, it was very interesting. So, I mean, you can tell me if you have any information on that. I mean, you have Baton Rouge, you have New Orleans, I'm sure there's different things going on. But I remember when I was in law school, they were talking about there's common law because there's British common law, which rules the United States, right? Most of the United States jurisprudence is based on British common law. So when they looked at different laws in the United States, they would also trace the history back to England and try to get some implicative information based on English common law, except for Louisiana, where Louisiana is run by what they call the civil code, which largely is based on the Napoleonic civil code. And so they said that if you go take the bar exam in Louisiana, you have to understand a whole different set of laws and the way the law works in Louisiana because of that whole French influence. So I'm just curious, outside of the legal thing, because I've never resided in Louisiana, how much does French language, French culture, besides the last names, how much does it permeate Louisiana and New Orleans?
Well, it's deep, and it's so ingrained that most people who are there don't even realize that it's from France or French, or even the Creole. So there are many people. Of course, there's the last names. There's the names of streets, the names of historic buildings, and much of the language that's used. Of course, in New Orleans, it's almost like you're speaking another language. Of course, I didn't know that until I moved away from New Orleans, and I would hear someone from New Orleans, and I would hear that they're sound different from everyone else. And I'm like, oh wow. But then people would tell me, you're from New Orleans.
You know, give me an example.
Well, let's see. A lot of Black people, the O's and the I's, they have an sound. So in common conversation, instead of toilet, it'd be turlet. Or instead of foil, furl.
Okay.
Of course, I can't think of any others on
right,
the spot.
Right. No, but I get it. So when they would say things like that, you can know that these people are from Louisiana.
And older people. So I lived in the area of New Orleans, downtown New Orleans, the 7th Ward. It was one of those areas where they had the big light skin, dark skin. If you were going in, and that happened a lot of places in Louisiana, but there were certain places where they would have the brown paper bag test. Whereas if you were darker than the brown paper bag, you couldn't go attend a certain school, you couldn't go to certain clubs, or be a part of certain civic or social organizations.
I mean, is that still going on till this day, or this is when you were growing up?
It's more so. It's not as heavy, or wasn't as heavy as I was growing up, but it's more so like I heard the stories, and then there were certain social clubs. Mm-hmm. You'll hear we hear about the Zulu as it relates to Mardi Gras. Most people initially at one time of the Zulu were dark skinned, or now if they parade for the Zulu, they'll put paint on their face to darken their skin. And there were other clubs that were similar for lighter skinned individuals.
These are social clubs?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, social and pleasure clubs.
Okay.
Yes. So organizations that, like for instance, Zulu is known for the parade for Mardi Gras, but they do other activities, and they have other events, big events like balls and scholarships or whatnot. But something that I heard a lot of older people say when they were communicating with individuals in passing, they'll say, how you doing, Shay? Or share, like the French would be, I guess, share or whatever. But they're like, how you doing, Shay? And so it was some things that I heard, and I didn't understand that it was rooted in another culture. But you notice it's a large difference, of course, moving away. So with me moving from Louisiana to New Orleans to Mississippi to Memphis, and then Los Angeles. I'm now in Los Angeles. Like a huge culture shock to see, to move from one place to the other. Whereas Memphis, they had some similarities in the way that the economies were or whatnot, being that it was majority Black. And then moving now, I'm in Los Angeles, to an area where it's majority Hispanic, a small percentage of Black people. And then different culture, I grew up, whereas you see another Black person, and actually in many cases, just seeing another person, you speak. And moved to Memphis, it was similar. Now I'm in Los Angeles, you see another Black person, and if they speak, you almost want to say, hey, how are you doing? You want to strike up a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah. I know that when I went to college, and I went to a predominantly white college, and whenever Black folks, we see each other, we at least give each other the head nod. The obligatory head nod, like, yeah, I see you, you see me, that type of vibe is almost unspoken. So yeah, I know the vibe you're talking about. So you're born in New Orleans, you're coming up in New Orleans. When do you move? You moved to Mississippi after that?
So after Hurricane Katrina, my family actually evacuated. We evacuated the day before Hurricane Katrina.
The day before you all left? How old were you then?
I was, I believe 27, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was the day before Katrina, and it was the first time we ever evacuated. Usually for a hurricane, we just prepare for a few days of power outages, street flooding. Mm-hmm. But this one, it showed that it would be a direct hit. So we left, and we thought we'd be back in 3 days, even though it showed a direct hit and all that. We thought that we'd be back in about 3 days. So we went to family in Magnolia, Mississippi. That's where my mother's side of the family's from. And of course, it turned out bad. And later we moved to South Haven, Mississippi, which is right on the right outside of it's on the Mississippi-Tennessee border, so right outside of Memphis.
Okay.
And
so if it wasn't for Katrina, would you still be in Louisiana, you think?
Probably still be in Louisiana and New Orleans.
That's real interesting, right?
Yeah.
That's really, so you don't think you would be in LA right now if it wasn't for Katrina? You had no reason to leave, right?
No reason at all. And the only reason why I'm in LA is because my now wife, she's an actress, filmmaker, and author. And while we were dating, when we started dating, she let me, I knew that she was a filmmaker. I knew we started dating. She told me that her plans were to move to Los Angeles. And I, like, well, hey, that's cool. I still had no idea that I'd be moving. And she actually moved first.
Okay.
And she was out here a year, and I just said, you know what, I need to get out there and get my woman. And I said, you know, it wasn't my dream to move to LA, but I want to be with her. And I said, hey, we're going to make this work. And it was the best thing that happened to me.
Yeah, LA is an interesting place, man. I lived in LA for several months when I was in law school. I did an internship in LA, and I lived in Westwood. And see, I was born in Africa, but I was raised in Chicago. And then I went to law school in Boston. I went to university in Boston, and I hated the winters, the Chicago winters, the Boston winters. So I found an internship in a warm place during the winters, and I went to LA, man. I loved LA. I loved LA. I was playing basketball outside just for spite during winter time, just for spite, just because, damn, it's 80 degrees out here. Not that it doesn't get cold. It gets cold in the winter in LA, like quiet as kept. It gets cold, but in the daytime, at night it gets cold, but in the daytime it's beautiful. And it's like summertime or spring there, and it rarely rains. So I really took advantage of that, and I loved living in the UC. I lived on the UCLA campus, and I was able to get like oranges for like $1 for 5 pounds of oranges, man. I remember living, this was 1997, around that time, man. And I loved LA, and I always said to myself, if I was going to live in America, probably California would be one of the places that I would choose, because culturally too, like almost everybody was just cool. Like, I don't know if that's what you find in, like, there's different ethnicities there. There's a lot of Asians there. There's a lot of Black folks there. But where I was, and when I was getting around, and that might just be because of my affinity towards cannabis, but I was into cannabis heavy when I was there. And so I'm into reggae music when I'm in LA. And so that's why I was hanging around. I was around all different types of people. It was really the first time in my adult life I was around white folks and didn't want to strangle them. and that was in LA. That was in California. I was like, damn. I think cannabis is the only chance for world peace. You know what I'm saying? I saw that in California, man. But before we even get to your time in California, I know there's a lot we got to get through, because what I want to do is I want to explore how you got into your political consciousness and then into your economic consciousness, right? Because I think that people who don't know you personally, people who might know you online, they know that you're the person who deals with money. I think that you've done a good job of carving your niche in terms of when people think of your name, they know that this brother's dealing with money, he's dealing with economics, he's dealing with finance. And there's a brother I can plug into, not to only get advice, but to actually get access to money if I need it for my businesses. And I think that you've done that in terms of your profile on social media. And so that's why I was so interested in talking with you. And we've done business together. We can talk about that online too, so that people know that, you know, you're just not talking. I've been a customer of yours. I've been a client of yours, and we can talk about all that. So when did you start getting political consciousness, or was that already part of your family?
No, it was around I was around 15, age 15, 14, 15. And I grew up in the church. I grew up in the church. I was one of those kids. My mother uh, took me to church. Back in the days, it was, you don't take the child out until 6 weeks or whatnot. So after that 6 weeks, one of the first places that I attended was church. And a friend of mine from the church, whose his grandfather actually founded the church, he had to read the autobiography of Malcolm X for school. And he suggested that I read it, and he let me borrow his copy. It was the first book that I ever recall reading on my own without having it being part of an assignment for school. And it was one of those books that woke me up. And it also, I was mad, I was upset, because I was 15 years old and I was learning so much, and I was like, why did it take so long for me to learn this? And it opened my eyes to want to learn more. I did well in school, so that summer I was in a program at Loyola University in New Orleans. It was a program to get more African-American students into the teaching profession. And the facilitator of the program used Haki Madabuti's Black Men, Single, Obsolete, and Dangerous. That textbook, or that book was kind of the textbook for the program. Right. So that was the autobiography of Malcolm X. That was the book that woke me up. Then Haki Madabuti, he was the one that put me on the right direction or the right track to whereas I wanted solutions to the problems, because he did a great job for me as a teenager of laying out the problem and then offering solutions. So from that time on, I always wanted solutions. What's the solution? How can I be involved in the solution? And of course, at a young age, I had that idealistic idea or approach that, hey, if 30 million of us get together, we could do this. 40 million of us, we can do this. And of course, over time, being part of a lot of organizations or whatnot, and attempts at different initiatives, I realized that it can happen, but the way that unity happens is a bunch of small groups organized around a good plan that can provide a good model. That's how we start. So I said, you know what, that's what I'm going to focus on. And I'll have my life as an example of what can be done. And that's how we started. In college, we were in the process of starting a Black student union on campus. And at the same time, a Black guy, he won president.
Okay, what college is this?
I went to Delgado Community College in New Orleans. And I told the young lady who we was working together, starting the Black Student Union, I said, how about we go and develop a relationship with him to see what resources we can tap into. And in that process, we actually became a part of student government. In that process, I became a senator, then eventually Senate President pro temp. I sat on the finance committee. So when the treasurer, she defaulted on her position, I was appointed to that position. Then I became the vice president and eventually president. Did that, and fast forward, moving to Memphis. I became active in organizations that did community service, from feeding the homeless bi-weekly, participating in neighborhood cleanups, activity. I'm sorry.
Not to interrupt. So you're in Mississippi after Katrina. What makes you go to Memphis?
Well, it's on the border. It's on the border. So going to Memphis is like crossing the street. Okay. So the relationships I ended up developing was in Memphis. Okay. So the organizations, I ended up finding individuals, developing friendships on Facebook. And then I'm like, well, hey, we have similar ideas. Where do y'all hang out at? What do y'all do for the community? And I want to be a part of it. And how can I be a part of it? Okay. And it was from there.
I think we may know some of the same folks in Memphis, man. You know the group Brothers Keeper?
That's who I worked with. That's who I did. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I did
man.
community service with feeding the homeless with those brothers, brother
Yeah, good
Jamalo,
brothers.
brother
Yeah.
Yele,
Yeah, man.
sister Jasira. I worked with them for
Yeah.
like 8 years. Those are my man. Those are some
Yeah.
really solid, good brothers.
Yeah, I met them during my poetry career. So, certain people you cross paths, when you're doing the circuit. And so those were definitely some brothers who impressed me. And when I went to Memphis, I also met, Sister Future and Brother Power. You know them as well, right? And they're in Ghana. Yeah, so the world is small. Yeah, man, the world is small. So you're in Memphis and you're doing a lot of community activism work. So it seems to me that through the autobiography Malcolm X, which was a huge catalyst for me in my development, and then you moved on to other books. So you'd have been dealing with the Haki Manabutis, you'd have been dealing with the Jawanza Kunjufus, you'd have been dealing with the Naim Akbars, you'd have been dealing with, reading Kwame Ture type stuff and all that. It's a whole solar system of these types of people once you start getting plugged in, right? So it becomes a political and a historical awakening as to where you are, your place in this world. And so I'm harboring a guess that if you're looking for solutions, at some point, you're looking at activism, you're looking at, being a speaker, right? Because what we want to do is emulate the greats before us, maybe becoming a historian. At some point, I'm wagering that a light bulb goes off in your head and says, it's about the money. We got to deal with the money. When did that happen?
Well, it came about meeting so many well-meaning brothers and sisters who had these great ideas that was dependent on the donations from the community, had these faltering institutions. I was like, our people, we come across a lot of money, over 1.2 trillion passed through our hands. Then we have the opportunity to access the economies of other cultures or world cultures. And there's no reason why we should be in the position that we're in. I understand that we have the issues with capitalism, which is taught by many of our brothers and sisters. And I'm like, the other system hasn't been developed. And I said, we have to use this as a tool to get to where we want to be. And we can get to the point to where we can finance our scholars and, hey, we have the time to develop the best systems possible. But our people need, you made a post a few weeks ago about how we need factories. And how when you finish doing all these things, we need factories. So I saw a long time ago, my job, my purpose will be to finance those factories. Finance our best scholars, our brothers and sisters. I know that there are brothers and sisters in our community who can teach an individual who doesn't know how to read, can teach them how to read in a summer. So, hey, we need to pay them just like we'll pay anyone else and make sure that all of our children who can't read, that they can learn to read.
What is it about you that you felt that your lane was the finance lane? So many of us try to find our lanes, and some people say, well, my lane is going to be music. My lane is going to be, I'm going to write liberation music. My lane is going to be self-defense. I'm going to teach our people self-defense and, gun training courses and what have you. My lane is going to be, I'm going to go on a lecture circuit and, talk about how the system is, messed up for us. We all pick our lane. So what about you felt that your lane was about finance?
Because it appealed to me before even being introduced to Malcolm X. Okay. I had one of those parents. So I grew up with my mother and father, okay. But my mother was that mother who I couldn't go to her and say, my friends have these expensive shoes, buy me these shoes. Mm-hmm. Her thing was, she taught me how to, now the beauty of that, she taught me how to purchase on clearance and buy on sale. Right. But early on, I was like, I'm going to buy this for myself. Well, I wasn't old enough to get a job. So I came across a magazine. My aunt had a beauty salon. And in there, they had a bunch of magazines. And there was one called like Money Making Opportunities. So I went through that book and I called for everything that was free.
Mm.
And that started that process of me looking into these opportunities. How can I start a business? How can I become financially fit? So then after reading the autobiography of Malcolm X, as many do, I initially thought that I was supposed to join the Nation of Islam. So I became introduced to the do for self philosophy.
Right.
And it just made sense to me. And that's where it was sparked at that young age.
Okay. So basically, you are somebody who, before you got into the consciousness, you already had a proclivity towards dealing with finance and entrepreneurship. And so basically, you wanted to use those superpowers for good once you understood what good and bad was, right? What's good, what's bad, and how can I use my superpowers to further more good, right? And your superpower happened to be finance, entrepreneurship, and all of that, right? So you didn't, so what happened was that you had the bug for finance before you got the bug for politics. And I think that that's what happens, you know, is that just like, you know, you may take somebody like a Shaka Khan, who you would see at a lot of Nation of Islam rallies, right? And she would, you know, sing some songs from Nation of Islam. So everyone is bringing what they already had to whatever they think that the political world should be, right? So I think that that's usually what happens. I don't think it happens after, right? I don't think that people learn consciousness or their place in the world or develop a worldview and then learn a skill after that. I think that they just bring what they had to the table once they get to the table, right? Because the whole point of this podcast and me having conversations with people is because I'm trying to understand the germinating root of people's personality, who they become and how they became that, almost as if it's a recipe, right? And I'm finding some common threads, whether someone becomes an engineer, whether someone becomes, you know, a finance guy, whether someone becomes a construction guy. Usually it's something that happened completely outside of politics or worldviews. It was just something that they had some skill towards that someone affected them with early in their life. Was there any individual in your family? I think you mentioned your mother, you mentioned your father. Was there any individual in your family who kind of nurtured or planted germinating seeds for your proclivity towards finance and entrepreneurship?
I'll say that my aunt, uncle, my aunt, she owned a beauty salon, and my uncle, he owned a successful lawn care service.
So you already
So
saw business owners in your family. So it wasn't nothing new. So to you, it's an equal option as being an employee or becoming an employer. It's not completely outside of your thought and realm of possibilities that you could easily own a business as you could filling out a resume. You saw that early.
of course, it took a while before I felt the level of comfort to take the full leap. So, you know, I worked the jobs, had the side hustles going, and it was moving to LA that actually gave me that leap to where, as I said, you know what, it's time for me to leap. There's no safety net.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just go for it. I moved to a place where the cost of living was 3 times higher. And I said, I want to live here. I want to be here with my woman. I want to make her my wife eventually. And I want to be able to enjoy myself while I'm here. So I don't want to live in poverty. And I said, you know what, well, she encouraged me,
Right.
well, to look at my skill sets, but I started helping individuals with credit. So doing credit repair.
But I know you were doing that in Memphis before you went to LA, right? Maybe you were not doing it full time, but I remember, you know, following your polls, and you were in Memphis and you were going hard in the paint.
Yeah. Yes.
So you already, so what was going on in Memphis before you went to LA in terms of your whole journey in finance?
I was part of 2 organizations under Black Wall Street, Mississippi.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, one was called Rhinos Nation.
All right,
and the
but
other
let's talk about Black Wall Street, Mississippi. Let's not gloss over that. What is Black Wall Street, Mississippi?
All right. So it's one of the chartered organizations of Black Wall Street America, and it was based in Mountain Bayou, Mississippi.
Okay.
And what it was, the lady who was over it, her name was Sister Ethel. She had an office in Memphis. And that's how we developed the relationship. And she came up with a beautiful program to teach entrepreneurship to ex-felons. And the beauty of her program was she didn't apply for grant money. Basically, the way it was, yes, the felons, they were going to pay a fee. They had to pay a tuition. But she taught them, and she taught them entrepreneurship, and she gave them a product to sell to pay for their membership.
Okay, so this is Black Wall Street, Mississippi, which is a local charter of the National Black Wall Street America. Can you just give me a little background? Now we know there's people watching this from all over the world. So I like to give context because there's people in Nigeria watching this podcast. There's people in South Africa. There's people in New York watching. There's people in Tulsa, Oklahoma watching this. So let's talk about Black Wall Street, what it was, AKA Little Africa, Tulsa, Oklahoma, what happened with that. And then we can then forward into this national organization that exists called Black Wall Street, and then its relationship to Black Wall Street, Mississippi. So could you just give the audience a little bit of information about what the historical significance of Black Wall Street is in the first place?
Sure. So some brothers and sisters came together in Tulsa, Oklahoma. O.W. Gurley and J.B. Stratford. And what they did, the idea was to develop a state, a town for Black people. And
what time period? What time period is this?
Like
this is like the 1920s.
Right, 1921, like 1921. And so they developed a successful community where they had thriving businesses, thriving professionals, and the Black dollar circulated basically like 100 times before it left the community. So it's Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it was covered by, it was 3 streets, Greenwood, Archer, and is it Peach? And those 3 streets, the group, the Gap band, they used those names or those initials that formed that group. They used that for their group. But there was a big riot that took place, or a massacre that took place. There was this the Black, what was the guy? Let me back up. It was the nickname of it was Little Africa. Booker T. Washington visited. A lot of people don't know that. They know of Booker T. Washington as the founder of Tuskegee, but he was also the founder of the Negro Business League. So it was a very powerful organization that basically empowered entrepreneurs. And he visited Tulsa, and he referred to it as a Negro Wall Street. He said, basically what you have is a Negro Wall Street. So that's actually the birth of the name Black Wall Street.
Right. And just for those people listening who want to do further research on Booker T. Washington, Booker T. Washington is a very important person who did basically build Tuskegee and the University in Tuskegee, Alabama. And he had an ongoing, very famous debate with W.E.B. Du Bois, who was pretty much the leading Black intellectual at the time. And it's the argument over what they call the talented 10th, right? And basically Booker T. Washington and W.E.B. Du Bois were trying to figure out what is the path that Black folks in America need to take as a plan to empower ourselves as a people. And W.E.B. Du Bois, being a Harvard-educated sociologist, decided that the fate of the race of Black people in America was dependent upon what he called the talented 10th. That there would be a 10% of our people who were very talented in intellectuals who would be the leadership class of our people. Whereas Booker T. Washington felt that the upliftment and the forward movement of our people would be really done through entrepreneurs and tradesmen and tradeswomen. So he he felt that all of our resources should be based on lifting up trades and skills, whereas W.B. Du Bois felt that our resources should be spent on really lifting up the 10% of our people who would be the leadership class, who would guide the tradespeople. So there's a very, robust debate that went on, but Booker T. Washington was about that business. And as a matter of fact, Booker T. Washington was the person who Marcus Garvey looked up to. So you had the birth of Marcus Garvey, Garveyism, Pan-Africanism, really through the inspiration of Booker T. Washington. So Booker T. Washington was not a small person at all. He was a very, very important person, and actually had the ear of many different presidents, and really gave a rise to Black nationalism from an economics point of view, who you could probably see today, his influence or his progeny would probably be someone like a Claude Anderson. Dr. Claude Anderson, right, would probably be the modern day Booker T. Washington to some degree, if you were to have to some type of comparison. So I just wanted to give people some type of background, because these things are important, because, we live in 2020 and some of the young people haven't even heard of some of these names that we're talking about, right? But Black Wall Street was very important because it showed Black folks living together, working together. And at this time, we didn't really have a choice, right? This is the time of segregation. This is 1920s, 1918, 1919, 1920s. And we had to be able to thrive and be able to have products and services for ourselves. And, there are many people who argue that actually segregation was the best times that we had economically. I mean, what's your opinion on that?
Well, all the statistics shows, let's say, if you look at 1863, between 1863 and 1963, you had this 100-year period of segregation. Our people left the plantations and they built schools, they built industries, they built robust, they owned farmland, they owned banking systems, insurance systems, many of those, because there was no option available to us, because many of those services weren't made available to those who just left the plantation. Well, our people had to provide that. And in that process, they built amazing institutions, industries, and we had an actual community. Then segregation came.
You mean integration?
Yeah, thank you. Integration came, but also on top of integration, you had integration. You also had NAFTA, where a lot of those jobs where brothers who had limited education were able to get a good job in a factory and take care of their family, where many of those jobs left the inner cities. You also had the introduction of drugs into our community, crack cocaine mainly. You had the welfare state, where the man was moved from the home. Right. So our people were dealt received a hurricane of problems, of issues, or attacks, should I say, on our community. But looking at what was produced during segregation and what was produced by our people during integration, it shows that our people were very productive. It shows that our people were building, that they were busy, that they were innovative. Not saying that there's no innovation taking place now, but it looks like there was so much to look at for our people to use as models to build upon, instead of us trying to start anew, afresh. And I understand.
But how do you feel about that, though? I want to know, seriously, I want to know how you feel about that. We about to have we're having a real conversation. Like, how do you feel about the fact that we were better off economically when we were forced to basically be with each other? And then when we're not forced to be with each other, we suffer economically. But does that mean that we only thrive when we're forced to deal with each other? You understand what I'm saying?
I understand. I do understand.
That doesn't sit well with me, right? So you have a situation where you have a regime where black folks are taught from birth that they're inferior in so many subtle but non-subtle ways, right? From the educational system to the religious system, you know, the gods are white, the savior is white, the teachers are white, the doctors are, you understand what I'm saying? In terms of the broader society that you find yourself born into in the 1920s, right? And even to a large extent, the 2020s, right? But it is mandated by legislative fiat that you can only go to school with black people, you can only go to hospitals with black people. But what happens is that something very interesting happens economically, which is called, what you referred to as the way money turns around in a community. And the health of a community is based on how many times that money can turn around within that community before it escapes, and also the velocity of money, right? So are we saying that based on the statistics that we saw, that we can only thrive when we're forced to work with each other?
Well, I like to believe that that's not true. I like to believe that we can do it without being forced to do it. But as we see, not a lot of our people are working together. Not a lot of our people are, I have the mindset of a brother Heru of, hey, we can open factories in Africa. You know, I run across many brothers and they have a doom and gloom outlook on life. When I try to tell them, hey, there are opportunities. Maybe they're not opportunities in America, but there's opportunities for us to provide, to enter into commerce with our brothers and sisters around the world, around the planet, where we can create opportunities here in America for those who don't want to leave yet or not ready to leave. But after integration, our brothers and sisters basically said we don't need to go to support Brother Heru and Brother Terrance when we can go to Mr. Charlie and Mr. Joe.
Right, because inside, during that time in the 1920s, you still have the mentality that the white man's ice is colder than the black man's ice. It's just that you don't have access to get to that white man's ice, so you go to the black man's ice anyway, already in your mind knowing that it might not be the best ice in terms of your worldview, right? So so in essence, we were doing business with each other reluctantly, but we were forced to do business with each other, which caused a better economic health, right? But then when you will unleash that mentality into a free market, right? That black man who's selling ice gets no more business, right? So when I hear the thing about, you know, because I've been part of these types of conversations, it was better under segregation. One of the things is that, you know, there's a difference between segregation and separation, right? Segregation is forced upon you. Separation is something you do with your own free will. And both of those require a certain type of mentality, right? So our mentality is not a mentality where we want to willfully separate our economics, such as, you know, other ethnic groups may do, right? I've read a quote sometime is the best form of economics, group economics, is to buy everything from each other and sell everything to everyone, right? So what we're having is that we are, even when we're in business, you know, when Indian people are in business and Chinese people are in business, they're sourcing everything from other Chinese people. And then they'll sell Chinese food to everyone, right? Indians do the same thing, white folks do the same thing. And if we're not doing the same thing, what happens is we source things from everyone and then try to sell only to us, right? Every time when you might see a new black business, they're focused on the black population, right? Because that's who their family is, that's who their friends are, and that's who they're marketing to. So they're not selling to the broader population, they're selling to an enclave of people based on situational awareness, right? In terms of where you are, the who's in your vicinity. And then you have the sourcing of goods and materials coming from other people. So it's like, it's turned backwards, right? So, you know, I think about these things a lot, and I think that that's why Africa is a strategic place, because the raw materials come from Africa, and you have an African population that has growing income levels. It seems to me that that would be the best strategic place to actually, you know, plant ourselves business-wise in terms of people in the diaspora. But I know that one of your missions is to provide businesses with funding. So when we're talking about Black Wall Street, you were part of Black, because that's what got you to where you are now, right? Without a Black Wall Street in Tulsa, there would be no Terrance SetepenRa Wilson in this space, right? Because that's what led you to where you're at now, right? So you've got a group of people in Tulsa, Oklahoma, who are basically under a regime where there's segregation, but they decide that they're actually going to take it a step further and thrive intentionally, right? By having banks, by having a high level, they had insurance companies, they had all types of things that are indicative of a community thriving, because that community is basically able to take care of itself, right? So give me more of your thoughts of Tulsa, Oklahoma, how it can be remodeled, any critiques that you might see, because it did end up getting attacked. And there's very little you can do when you're surrounded by enemies, but there are things that you can do when you're surrounded by enemies. Look at Israel, right? There are things that they do when they're surrounded by enemies. I mean, but, you know, so just as someone who's into finance in Tulsa, Oklahoma is really one of the shining lights in terms of models. What is your analysis of Tulsa, Oklahoma in the 1920s?
So it's a beautiful model of what we can build, but it also provides a lesson of how we should also, when building a community, we should also think of protecting ourselves. So you gave the example of Israel. Many don't know that in Israel, after graduating high school, each high school student has to serve 2 years in the military. Well, they're trained, so you have a culture of people in a country or a community. Well, it's a country that knows that their job is to protect their community. So I think many in Tulsa, as many Black people existing today, think that they're always safe wherever they're at when they're surrounded by other cultures. Think that they can be relaxed, and won't face attack. As you see, many individuals who are involved in police-related killings, many of them thought that, hey, this is no big deal. I'll get out of it. I'll be able to go home. Well, they didn't meet that fate. So in Tulsa, we had a guy who was the elevator operator. He was accused of touching a white girl. And from that, those individuals outside of Tulsa who was already had issues with that community saw that as the opportunity to attack.
That's Billy Bob Jethro and them, right?
Correct. Right. That's correct. So they see these uppity Negroes who think they're, that they're better than us because they have their own stuff and we're suffering. Well, hey, we're going to go tear their stuff down. And it wasn't just an attack from a group of just a small group of people, because they were able to attack from the sky. So they had some assistance from some individuals who had helicopters or some type of equipment to drop bombs, and they actually attacked and slaughtered. It was a massacre. But out of that, one of the brothers J.B. Stratford, he escaped, and he escaped to Chicago. The significance of that is J.B. Stratford, so he was one of the founders. He was one of the movers and shakers of Tulsa. When he moved to Chicago, so he was accused of being the person who started the riot. So there was, they were trying to arrest him. He moved to Chicago with that same philosophy and taught that to his family, taught that to his children, to support Black-owned businesses, blah, blah, blah. Well,
they were trying to accuse him of starting the riot, but his community was burned down.
Yes. They were going to arrest him and kill him. They were going to hang
That's
him.
the government.
That's correct.
In Oklahoma, they were going to arrest him and kill him, even though his own people got killed, but they were going to charge him for starting the riot, not Jethro and Billy Bob. So just letting people, I just want a clarification on that to let people know that history is a current event.
His grandson, and I can't think of his name right now, but his grandson is the founder of Ariel Capital. And Ariel Capital is the largest Black-owned financial services company in America. And basically it handles the retirement plans of many municipalities, of a lot of school districts and whatnot.
Oh, okay.
But there's a documentary, it's called Boss. It was a PBS documentary on Black business in America, and it covered it. And he tells the story of how his grandfather taught them at a young age about supporting Black businesses and starting businesses. So we see that it didn't just die with the massacre in Tulsa. That's what I'm getting at.
Right. And so that's J.B. Stratford, right? That's a name that should be known. That's a name that definitely should be known because he was one of the architects of Black Wall Street. Do you know exactly what type of businesses he had, or was he like a community leader, or was he actually someone who had his hands in a lot of business? What was his role?
One of his big, he was an organizer of, along with O.W. Gurley. O.W. Gurley, and Gurley spelled G-U-R-L-E, L-E-W, L-E-Y. He owned a hotel. That was his main business, a hotel. And
do you know what their relationship might have been with the Garvey movement at the time?
I don't. That's an interesting. That's something that will be interesting. We can find out.
Because the Garvey movement started picking up around that time, right? So that would be very interesting to see what the relationship was even after the Tulsa bombings, to see what J.B. Stratford's relationship was with Marcus Garvey. And that's some research I'm gonna do for myself. So I thank you for bringing his name up, because I heard about him, but I hadn't done a deep dive into J.B. Stratford. So I'm gonna look into him. He's an important person. So yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted you. You were making a point. I actually forgot that point. Right. Well, you were talking about Ariel Capital.
Yes.
So it's Ariel Capital and the son, the grandson.
So it's an investment firm that manages the retirement plans of a number of school districts in America. So it's the largest, of course, they call it minority, but the largest Black-owned financial institution in America. And many of us don't even know, and there are individuals who their retirement plans are actually managed by this company, and they don't even know that it's Black-owned and that it was started by, and of course, those who may know that it's Black-owned, they don't even know that his grandfather was one of the architects of Black Wall Street.
Right. So basically, he's continuing the tradition.
That's correct.
The grandson.
That's correct.
All right. So now that leads us to this organization that exists today called Black Wall Street. And what is that organization?
So it's an organization with the goal of recreating that idea, that concept, that tangible Black Wall Street, but Black Wall Streets all over America, actually all over the world. And they have organizations actually worldwide, and they have, if there's not one in your area, you can get a charter and you can start one. So the sister, her name is Ethel Kane.
This is the sister in Mississippi?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. So she had she was located in Mound Bayou, Mississippi,
Okay.
and there's historical significance to Mound Bayou, Mississippi, as well, as it was a town that was founded by ex-slaves. They cleared the land by hand, and they actually built a thriving community there as well that many of us don't know about. And they were so powerful that they assembled an army, and they assembled an army of 100, I believe it was 100,000 black men who were going to march with arms to Washington, D.C. To demand his freedom or whatnot. And I believe it was Frederick Douglass, I had to get the exact name, was able to stop it. He stepped in, he intervened or whatnot to slow them down.
Okay, so this got to be in the 1800s, mid 1800s, huh?
So the organization, she became like the charter or the chapter of the year, maybe 2 years in a row, because of her initiative to teach entrepreneurship to prisoners. So her idea was, hey, we teach them entrepreneurship. We don't rely on government aid or assistance. If we get it, good, but we don't want to be dependent on it, because I guess in her experience, you create a good organization, you get some donations, some grants, and it worked. But when they pull those grants and those donations, you're stuck. So she had an office in Memphis, Tennessee, and an organization that I was introduced to called Rhinos Nation, and another one called Building More Wealth. They met in her office, and they were under her, or under Black Wall Street, Mississippi. Okay. So Rhinos Nation, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is there a website for the National Organization for Black Wall Street?
Yes.
Okay. If you could, while we're having this conversation, if you could find it or whatever, we could even do a screen share of it so that people can go to it, if they want to walk in your footsteps.
So there was an organization called Building, I'm sorry, wait a minute. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Okay.
And the sister's name, because the sister sounds like a giant. What's her name again?
Ethel Kane.
Ethel Kane, okay.
Yes. And
out of Mississippi.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So I was introduced to her. So it was after I'll find a website on my phone and type it in. I can't think of it. There was a killing in Memphis. There was a black teen named Darius Stewart was murdered in Memphis, and it was around August of 2015. And me and a few friends from Facebook, we were going to the rallies or whatnot. And after about the third or fourth rally, me and a friend of mine, we were like, we need to get a group of brothers and sisters together, and we need to figure out some tangible solutions, because just protesting, it can only go so far. And many of us were already doing things like I was feeding the homeless, and as part of, we were doing neighborhood cleanups. And I said, maybe if we get a few like minds together and come up with some tangible solutions that we can, introduce to the community, maybe we make a better impact than just protesting. So we met. One of the locations that I would usually have my events at was Java Juice and Jazz. It wasn't available. So I called around, and a sister was like, hey, we have a spot in the mall, in the Hickory Ridge Mall. And that's where Sister Ethel Kane had her office. And there was a brother there. He had an organization called Rhinos Nation. Mm-hmm. And that organization taught entrepreneurship. It had weekly classes that taught entrepreneurship, all aspects of business. And one of the significance of it is we had our own currency. We had our own currency that was based on the barter system called the Black Dollar. So, so if you attend, let's say, the way that the currency would work, it had a dollar for dollar value. And if you attend 2 workshops, you earned enough in the currency to have a business plan created. So that was one to sell it. So there was a guy who sold business plans for $500. He would normally sell them for $2,500, but for members of Rhinos Nation, there were 500. And if you attended 2 workshops, you earned enough in that currency to get a business plan from them. So we did workshops every week on all aspects of business, on developing a business plan, marketing, you name it. We would have events around let's say Black Friday, a celebration called the Real Black Friday celebration, whereas we would just have we'll rent out a location and just have Black vendors there, so that if you're going to do Black Friday shopping, you have that opportunity to spend with Black vendors. So that was one organization. Then the other organization, Building More Wealth, we did weekly workshops on financial literacy. So it covered budgets, credit, and investing. And my specialty became credit. So I became, for the workshops, going back, I became a director in both organizations. For Rhinos Nation, I was a membership director. And for Building More Wealth, I was a director, and I was a credit educator. So for the workshops and teleseminars, I would be the one that would basically lead the class or facilitate the class or co-facilitate the class on credit. And that's really where I I cut my teeth, as they say, in credit, and developed a reputation of helping individuals with their credit. And so I was doing credit, I was known for that, but I wasn't doing it as a business per se. I was like, hey, you come to this organ, come to the workshops, just pay the membership and we'll teach you. You know, the membership was like $20. It was like, hey, we're going to show you how to fix your own credit, and then show you how you can leverage that credit to be an investor. And from that really, I learned a whole lot about credit. So when I moved to Los Angeles, when I was trying to figure out what I want to do, it was my wife, who suggested, she said, credit, you can offer that. You can make money doing that. And I started a business doing credit repair full time. And I haven't looked back since.
Okay. So when did you start that business?
I moved to Los Angeles July of 2018. So
Okay.
July of 2018, started doing credit repair. And it was around maybe December of 2018. Someone I met on Facebook really told me, say, hey man, you posting a lot about credit. He said, if you send clients to me to get loans, you get a percentage. And initially the percentage amount, it sounded real small, but I didn't understand how that world worked.
Right.
And I started seeing some of the commission checks, and I was like, okay,
yeah,
I love this. So I added offering business loans. And also eventually along the way, I learned business credit, and I started offering that as well.
Okay. So I think that this is a good point now for us to do a deep dive into credit. What I want to get in with you is I want to get in, number one, like, I don't want it to be cliche about, what is the importance of having good credit and all of that. But I mean, let's just talk about the before and after, right? Of when someone has a certain credit score as opposed to when you have a better credit score. What does that really mean in somebody's life? Like, what is the difference? How does it really affect your life in any meaningful way? For the average person that's working a 9 to 5, like, why should they care about having a 580 credit score as opposed to a 700 credit score? Like, what does that really mean to them? So let's get into that. And then after that, I want to get into, like, what is it that you do? What are the pointers that, you can give people as to how to keep up with their credit? Because I can tell a story of me. I was, you know, I graduated from school, so I had great student loan debt. And I looked into the whole student loan issue, and I basically saw it as another form of indentured servitude. So I made up my mind that I wasn't going to pay back student loans. And I became an artist. And so when you get into that artist bag, you're a free spirit. You don't even care about the system. So I was off grid for many years, you know, until I started seeing the importance of, you know, kind of cleaning up my act so that I would be able to leverage and do, you know, different things around business, because I decided to become an entrepreneur, right? So not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Some people do want to be entrepreneurs. So let's get into how credit affects people's lives and how it disproportionately affects Black folks' lives. I know this is your wheelhouse, so just take it away, man.
Right, this is my wheelhouse. So so you gave the example of a 580 credit score. So let's say someone who has a 580 credit score and someone who has a 700 credit score. If that person who has a 580, if they're able to get a home, let's say purchase a car with a car note, and they're able to get a mortgage. And let's say if they have credit cards, they're going to pay more in interest than that person that has a 700. And that amount that they're paying, in that difference can equal over $100,000 in the life of that loan. And that's money that can go into their household as an investment into their family, into their children. Because many of us are not taught about credit. Well, we're not. Let's say the American school system doesn't teach us about finances, about all aspects of finance as it relates to budgeting or credit. We're taught that this is an economy that runs on credit and you being a consumer. We don't understand that just because this is a consumer-based or oriented society, that we don't have to always be the consumer. And even though we all at some point are consumers, that we have the opportunity to get the best bang for our buck, become investors and producers. One thing that individuals who have bad credit don't understand is that all credit can be repaired, restored, and what it is mainly understanding how the credit system works. There are laws that are in place to protect you as a consumer. And what it is, the credit agencies or the credit bureaus, they're businesses. Mm-hmm. They work in the best interest of the corporations who sell or use your data to basically make a determination of whether or not you qualify for a loan or the interest rate that you qualify for it at.
And there are three main credit reporting agencies, correct?
That's correct. Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion are the main three. Now, there are actually dozens of other small credit unions who act as data furnishers.
Credit unions or credit reporting agencies?
Credit reporting agencies. Okay. So like LexisNexis and whatnot. So there's actually, if you apply for an application online, there's actually a data furnisher who will have that information. It goes into their database. So when you apply somewhere else, their system will be able to pull up in the system, in the database, and see, hey, what information did you put on this application? So if you put on one application that you earn $100,000 annually, and you put on another one that you earn $60,000 annually, well, that's something that an algorithm in their system will basically decline your application. Now, they may tell you that there's another reason why it was declined, but basically your data is being used to make decisions that impact your life, and credit is one. And we're not taught that, hey, the importance of having good credit. We're not taught that credit can be used as a tool to actually empower yourself and your family and your community. Many of us are taught that, hey, you only use credit to purchase cars, houses, and maybe get credit cards so you can purchase depreciating assets or items, liabilities. Many of us, we're not taught that, hey, if you have good credit, you can go to a financial institution and possibly get a loan, a business loan, to purchase real estate or to start a business. I mean, they're not taught that, hey, we can, just because you have credit cards doesn't mean that you have to use them to purchase depreciating items. You can use them to purchase the material that you need for your business and to become an investor and be able to invest like Brother Heru is doing in Africa and the Caribbean and whatnot.
I think, I think a good way to look at this, when people talk to me about credit, a lot of people there, you talk to people about credit, sometimes their mind kind of shuts off because they think that this is beyond their grasp or something that's so tedious and something that they don't know about, because this is not something that's part of the general conversation, right? I like to do it this way. What types of people manipulate credit for their advantage? What types of people and what are they doing? Because you're in this business and there's people coming to you, and some people are coming for different things. But in terms of people who's moving and shaking, what types of people and what type of things are they trying to get from increasing their credit score? Let's talk about it that way, because I know you see a lot of interesting characters with a lot of interesting profiles and what they're trying to do. There's people trying to leverage this whole credit thing to do all types of things. And there were times in history where credit was a lot looser than it might be now, and there's still loopholes now and what have you. So who are the types of people, on the highest levels that are trying to leverage this whole credit thing, and why it's important for them to talk to someone like you to get a good credit score?
Well, real estate is the #1 wealth builder in America. I deal with a lot of individuals who are real estate investors. My main market, real estate investors and just business owners. So I don't really market my business to just the average person to repair their credit, to get a car, to purchase their dream home, even though I will do it, but my marketing is geared towards those individuals. So you have individuals who—
So I know you got stories. I know you got stories.
So I meet individuals who they're buying like packages, a portfolio of properties. So maybe the bank has a portfolio, a package that has maybe 20 properties in it. And that package may be for $400,000. All they need is $400,000 to purchase it. Well, I see individuals who make average incomes of sometimes like $60,000 to $80,000, who have 680 or higher credit score, able to get qualified to purchase those packages. Now that package of homes that they were able to purchase for $400,000 worth close to $2 million. But it's because they have good credit and they know where to shop. They're able to get this package of portfolio of houses to where they can sell a few of the properties, recoup their investment, pay it off, have their credit still intact, and then they have some properties that they can just hold and rent out for their families. I met individuals who they buy and flip Instagram and social media accounts. So basically you have let's say you have a social media account, let's say on Instagram, and you have 100,000 followers. Well, that's actually an asset because you have the ability to monetize that site or that page by selling advertisement. So what they'll do is they'll buy that page, and let's say if they're in an affiliate program, they'll have their affiliate links on that page, or offer the opportunity for someone else that's, let's say like you, Brother Heru. Hey brother, hey, you selling your product? Hey, you can sell it on my page, and we'll offer you a package where, hey, $50 a week you can advertise on my IG page. Well, there are people who make lots of money doing that, buying YouTube accounts. Some individuals who go to the auctions to buy cars at the auto auctions. They get a line of credit or get a high limit credit card that they're able to actually liquidate. Well, they were in the past, maybe they were able to buy 2 or 3 cars at a time. Now they can buy a dozen or more. I see individuals that are buying land. I just came across an individual they're buying a plot of land in Utah, and they're going to build an apartment complex. a luxury apartment complex.
They get a construction loan.
That's correct. Because so there are real estate products that someone actually with bad credit can actually get. And what it is the lender is looking at that property itself. So if you're able to purchase, let's say, $100,000 property, and you're able to get it for $30,000, well, there's a lender that's willing to take a risk on you because they look at it like this: there's enough equity in that property to whereas if brother Heru defaults on that loan, well, we can take that property back in foreclosure, and we can sell it at a discount. And there's enough equity to, even if we sell it at a discount, we'll still make a profit. So it's a whole nother world.
So let's parse that out. So because some people don't understand these terms, sell it at a discount and this and that. So basically, there's $100,000 property that I bought for $30,000. Usually, you have a distressed buyer. I mean, distressed seller, right? Somebody who knows it's $100,000, but they can't wait months for all of the haggling. They need cash now. For whatever reason, they may have gone bankrupt in another business. They may have some medical issue. They just need to be able to get cash, right? And most people hold on to property so that they'll be able to liquidate it at some point. So the problem is that there's timing issues. So the seller just needs $30,000 cash. They can't get it anywhere else, right? People in different financial positions. They can't get a loan because they got bad. So all they got is the house, and they need to convert that to cash. The house might not even mean anything to them. They just need to convert it to cash. They're willing to take that loss just to get the cash because they need the cash for something, right? So they sell it to me for $30,000, but the value of the house is really $100,000. They're willing to lose the 70 just so they can get the 30 now. So I give them the 30 now. And this happens all the time in real estate deals, particularly if you're a cash buyer. You can go to the person, sometimes even go to half the price, be like, I got cash right now. Instead of having to wait 3 months or 2 months or 30 days for a closing, I can do it right now. And they might be like, I need that money now. And so they'll go ahead and they will do the deal. So what Terrance is saying is that that house is really worth 70. You bought it for 30 with a $30,000 loan. That your business partner, who's the bank, will go ahead when you foreclose. They're okay with that because they know that they can even sell it for 40 and make a profit because there was a $30,000 loan and the house is still at a discount. What he means by discount is that the true value of the house is 100. They don't need it to be 100 to make profit because the banks are just in business to do profit. And so to have profit, to make profit. And like they say, you never go broke when you're making profit. You might not make as much profit as you want, but as long as you're making profit, you're not gonna go broke, right? So to the listeners and to the watchers, what Terrance is telling you is that the credit scores is very important because I had to walk through this in my own life after I was somebody who completely rejected the system. But I decided that I was going to play the game because I understood it was just a game. And I also ran across a quote, something, you know, sometimes you read things, bro, and it just kind of just speaks to your soul, right? You know, you got to make a change. And I read something that no matter where you are in any society that you are, you should learn all the tools necessary to thrive in that society, right? So even if I'm in a country that I think is unfair and unjust and does not support me and who I am, I should still learn all of the viable tools necessary to thrive in that society. I don't care if I'm in China, I don't care if I'm in the North Pole, I don't care if I'm in somewhere in Africa, I don't care where it is, I have to learn what it is in that society is necessary to thrive. And what Terrance is doing, and I think that, you know, his posts serve as a real service to people. So if you go on Facebook, I think you should probably get a Facebook page. You got a Facebook page for your business?
I do.
Good.
It's called The Funding Clinic.
Yes, the Funding Clinic. Anyone there like the Funding Clinic, sign up for the Funding Clinic and get information that runs on your feed from the Funding Clinic. It's better to get that information that he's sharing because he's sharing a lot of information freely for years. I've learned a lot of things from him. I learned about Acorn. I didn't know about Acorn. I learned that from you. And he's selling a lot of information. He's sending a lot of information on the site for free. And if you like the funding clinic page, what happens is whatever he posts will show up on your feed. And if you like it enough and comment on it enough based on the Facebook algorithms, what will happen is that you'll start seeing more of his posts about how to better your life financially than seeing posts from your friends who are posting about what they ate that day, right? Or celebrity gossip. So that's why it's important. But basically what he's trying to tell you in terms of the credit is that what credit does, credit scores allow you to have banks as your business partners. That's really what it is. Banks have the money, you get the money from the banks, they become your business partner. But without a certain credit score, the bank is not going to do any partnership with you. That's pretty much the long and short of what having good or bad credit is that on one side, the banks aren't going to do business with you as a business partner. And when you have a certain threshold of a score, they will do business with you. And it differs based on, business partnerships with the banks, which they call business loans, or business partnerships with the banks for property, which is called mortgages. So, I mean, you can just piggyback on some of what I'm saying there.
Yes. So there are financial institutions outside of the bank that you may do business with. So maybe the bank that you've been doing business with since maybe you were a teenager, you may try to go there to them for a loan. And there's a possibility that because of the industry that you're in, they may not issue that loan because you may be, let's say, if you go to the bank and let them know you want a loan because you want to invest in real estate, it'll be very hard to impossible to get that loan. Outside of a mortgage, the only loans that they're given to investors are secured loans. So you would have to provide the properties that your portfolio of properties as collateral to get that loan. But there are alternative financial institutions who are in place to take advantage or to provide that opportunity. They see the gap that's needed. And basically, if you have a credit score of, let's say, a 680 or higher, and your income is, let's say, 40,000 or higher, you have almost the opportunity to access $250,000 or more in assets.
And you see this all the time. You see this all the time.
All the time.
Tell me about some of the deals that you're proudest of, that you've been able to put together in terms of getting people, good credit scores and also loans for some really good property deals or some business deals or what have you. Just share some of those anecdotes with us.
So one of the earliest that I'm really proud of, which really taught me the power of credit. Of course, I saw the power of credit, but I was able to see how credit and group economics can work together. I met someone who had a business and they had an idea for their business, and they were able to get a lot of people to buy into the idea of their business. But those individuals didn't have the capital to invest, but they had great credit scores. So this individual, he was able to get like about 10 people to come to me and get loans that range from $50,000 to $100,000. And they basically got the loan. Yes, each. And they invested the full amount into his business because they believed in him. And it paid off. Now, of course, that's something risky. Wouldn't advise, but that's one. Another is an individual. He was retiring from the military, and he wanted all of his sons to have a rental property. And he came to me and he let me know what his plans were, and we were able to work out to develop a relationship with a lender that will basically a best fit for that scenario. And he was able to purchase. He had 3 sons. And he was able to get each son 2 rental properties. And what it is with
he had 3 sons, and he was able to get them 2 each.
Yeah.
So you got a total of 6.
That's correct. And what it is with the real estate funders. So they look at your credit, but they also look at the equity in the property again. So some investors that I deal with, I'm able to get them unsecured funding. So that's funding where basically there's no restriction of the usage, and then get them a loan, either a fix and flip loan, so a loan to purchase a property, to rehab that property, and to either refinance it or sell it, or refinance it at a 30-year mortgage, or either they're going to sell it. And then there are the products for long-term rentals.
Okay, so they have loans specifically for fixing and flipping.
Correct. That's correct. That's correct. And many of these loan products, they'll loan you between 70 to 90% of the purchase price, and 100% of the rehab costs. So one of the selling points to investors who many know about, maybe they have some relationships with some lenders who do that, is that I'm able to offer them gap funding. So I'm able to get them an unsecured loan that covers all of the costs that will be required of them out of pocket. So if they're required to come with 10% or 30% of that purchase price, they can pull it from that loan. All the fees that are required at closing, for closing costs, for the appraisal, the taxes, blah, 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 comes out of that loan. Then there are some lenders, they want to see that the borrower has 6 months of the payments in reserves. So out of that unsecured funding, it's available. And then with unsecured funding, or with the real estate funding, you're not limited in the amount of properties that you're able to do. So let's say if you get a $100,000 loan, it may be a while before you qualify for larger loans. But with the real estate products, again, because it's property specific, it's looking at the property more than your credit score, even though your credit score weighs in. They're willing to look at, hey, this is a good deal. This meets our lending criteria. We'll take that risk. So we have some lenders, they'll loan between 50,000 up to 3 million. There's some that will give you a line of credit up to $1 million for you to make the purchases. But the possibilities are unlimited. And what I want to do, many in our community are not aware of that. When they think of getting loans, they think of going to the bank that they usually bank with. And many times they're either denied or they're given a small amount. And they don't understand that just because your bank told you that they can give you 40,000, that's not the limit. That's not the, or should I say, that's not the max that you qualify for.
Right, and as you pointed out, some of the banks don't even have the financial loan products that you might need. You might have a bank that just does basic mortgages, but they might not even do construction loans. They definitely won't do fix and flip loans. You need to be able to find the proper institutions that specialize in what you're trying to do. So let's talk about my case. I gotta, in these types of things, I don't like to talk about hypotheticals too much. Let's talk about my case. Right now, because I did business with you in the past, we could talk about that one. In terms of the funding that I needed for manufacturing my product here in the States, but I am looking at building factories, right? And the equipment would be placed in Africa. So the equipment would not be in the States where it could be used to be repossessed if I wasn't able to make payments, right? So I come to you and I say, listen, I got over a 720 credit score. I make X amount of money a year, and that's over 6 figures a year. I need to get factory equipment for really 2 factories. Let's just do maybe even one at a time, right? And the factory equipment, after it's all done, it's probably gonna cost me $70,000, $50,000 for the equipment, and maybe $20,000 for miscellaneous. My business is registered in the United States. I have, tax records of that business and all that. I'm coming to you, Terrance. Like literally, I'm actually asking you this question. This is a real question. I need 70 grand to be able to get the pieces for this factory together. I have choices. I could either sell stock that I have, and the stocks that I pick are all appreciating stocks. So if I sell that money, I'm losing out on probably 100% growth in a year. Whereas I could get a loan that might be, you know, a certain percentage a year. It might be better for me to go with the loan. What vehicles do you have available for me to be able to secure $70,000 at a time to build factories that are not going to be based in the US? It's going to be based in Africa. That's my question to you.
Perfect. So we actually have three solutions.
Okay.
So one solution is,
I hope y'all are listening to this. I hope y'all are listening to this, because I did make a post about building a factory and I got price quotes for about $50,000. I was going to use my own money to do this, but serendipitously, I'm talking to Terrance right now and he gets money for businesses. So this is a real life situation. This is not hypothetical. This is not some boring conversation. I'm actually looking for him to solve a problem that I have right now and the different options that I have. So listen carefully to this. And his answer is going to let you know that you can have a factory too. So let's go.
So there are three solutions or options, and actually all three can be exercised. All right. So the first would be, you have a factory in America and you have a great credit score and a great income. You qualify for an expansion loan. Now, the lender doesn't have to know that your expansion includes expanding to Africa.
See, now we're talking. Now we're talking. We're talking now. We're talking now. We're talking. We've been talking, but we're talking now. An expansion loan. I didn't even know that. Okay, let's go.
So the second is, again, I know your credit score and I know your income. You qualify for unsecured funding, an unsecured line of credit. You qualify for more than $100,000 in unsecured funding. So with unsecured funding, the minimum requirement is that you have a 640 credit score and that you earn a minimum of $40,000 annually. There are some lenders who will go lower than that, but that's the average.
Now, is this personal loan or is this business loan?
Well, it can actually, it'll be a business loan. So
okay.
what it is
it a loan or a line of credit?
Line of credit, I apologize. Okay. Well, there's, you qualify for both, the loan and the line of credit.
I want you to talk about everything. Sure. I want you to talk about all my odds, because I'm gonna tell you this, Terrance. We pull this off, right? You're gonna be the go-to person for all the people who need to build these factories, because Africa at this point missed a lot of the Industrial Revolution. So it's now up to African diasporic, particularly the men, for us to actually get Africa back on its feet, to be able to be competitive. And the thing about, and we can go into this more, but this is actually a great conversation, because this is real, because you know, if I say I'm gonna do business with you, I'm gonna do business with you, because we already did business.
Right.
I was happy with the business that we did. You understand what I'm saying? So I know you're not selling wolf tickets. People listening, he's not selling wolf tickets. I needed to get money to do manufacturing for my products, herbalresults.net. That's a quick plug. And I had to decide between cashing out some stocks or getting some type of loans. And I spoke with Terrance about it. And usually he says within a week, I'd been able to get it, but because of COVID, it took a little bit longer. And in the meantime, I was able to find some money and do it, but I was able to get credit cards, you know, with funding up to like around $40-something thousand. And we were able to do it. And it was pretty painless to be able to do it. So I have, you know, extra $40,000 in credit, which helped me in terms of my credit score, because what it did is it increased the amount of credit that I actually have, right? So, and I haven't even used that money yet. And he was able to get me 3 credit cards where I'm able to draw from that credit without having any interest payments for a year, right? So I could just work up that credit and don't even have to, you know, just pay the minimum, but there is no interest payment for the rest of the payments that I might be drawing out of it for 1 year, which is very helpful. But at this point now, I'm expanding, and he knows that I'm expanding. He tells me there's an expansion loan option. So I'm gonna listen to more. So we got an expansion loan option. Let's just go over that one more. So I got an expansion loan option, and how much can I get for that based on the numbers, you know, in terms of my income and my credit score?
I know I can get you more than 100,000.
Okay.
I know that I can get you more than 100,000.
And how quickly could you do that?
This lender can do it in 3 to 7 business days.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so what it is there are lenders that I deal with that only deal with specific industries. And because you're in your industry is seen as essential, this lender will fund it. And all, if you need to expansion, so if that means increasing inventory or expanding your location, there's that loan qualifies for that.
Okay.
So
It
that's
doesn't
an
have to
actual
be limited to the United States in terms of where I'm expanding, or they don't need to know all of that?
know that.
Okay.
They don't need to know that. And actually, they have some good programs to where you have about 6 months, 6 to 7 months before you make a payment. But that's without getting,
Yeah, no. Yeah, but this is good to know.
Oh, but yeah.
Yes,
It is.
This is what I'm gonna tell you, brethren. I like being thorough. And please do not feel like you're wasting time by not being, going through the details. Let's go through the details. I want to hear all the details because you're the expert with this, and I would hate your time to be squandered without us getting the full value of who Terrance SetepenRa Wilson is, because you've helped me, you've helped a lot of other people, and I need to know all of different options that are available to me so I can make decisions, because I got to build these factories. Right? So I can get an expansion loan. Doesn't matter where I'm expanding to. They consider my business because I make health products, natural health products, herbal health products as an essential business. And that refers to the whole era of COVID, right?
Right.
So they have special programs available for people who have essential businesses during this time, right?
Right.
Yeah. So could you talk more? Could you talk more about those opportunities that exist for certain businesses during COVID?
So, of course, as we know, businesses, business owners and investors, the economy depends on. And if you have an essential business, there are lenders who are looking to provide you with capital. And many of those lenders have special programs to make it appealing. So they have programs to where you get up to 6 months before you make a payment, without a payment. Or 6 months no interest or whatnot. And so because your business is seen as essential, I know that I can get you over $100,000 in expansion capital, but you're not limited to just the expansion capital. Then
what type of interest rates are we looking at?
We're looking at between 3%. I'll tell you on the low end, 3.75% up to 8.99%. That's on the high end.
Okay.
That's on the high end.
Based on credit score.
That's correct. That's correct. That's
so based
where
on
that
my credit score that you know already, which is above 720, what type of interest rate am I looking at?
Somewhere in 5% or less.
Okay, I can tell you right now, it's a deal. I can tell you right now, if that's what you can do, I will be probably putting up my first factory in Rwanda. And I have a pro forma invoice right now for equipment. I'm just doing a little bit more due diligence. I may have to actually fly over to the equipment manufacturer, do some tests, but I'm going to be in contact with you to get this deal done, because my question was whether I was going to use my own money, sell stocks that I already own, or, possibly go into a partnership with a bank, or go to some, uncles of mine who might have a little money laying around. But 5% is great. And if I can get a deferment for 6 months in terms of payment, I'll have the factory up and running with products already selling and be able to pay that off quickly. And what's the term of these loans in terms of the time frame?
Usually up to 10 years, a 7 to 10 year period for that one. Then also you qualify for unsecured funding. So with unsecured funding, we get you about 100,000 with there's no restriction of the usage.
And that is a credit line, right? Business credit line?
Yeah, that's correct. So it'd be a loan or line that's in the name of your business, but it would be using your personal credit to guarantee it. So it'll only show up on your business credit reports and not your personal credit reports. Now, if you default on it, it'll
go into the personal. Yeah. So what would they need in terms of my business information? They need like a DNB, Dun & Bradstreet number, those types of things? Okay, yeah, I already have that. And they just need my taxes for how many years? 2 years?
2 years. 2 years.
Okay, we got that. This is looking real good. So that's the second option. What's any other options?
Yeah. Actually, there are two more as I think about it. So the third option, have you applied for the economic injury disaster loan?
No, I have not.
You qualify for that. So that's the program under the SBA program after that was initiated after COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get on that immediately. Actually, that should be the first route because so that loan, I know you qualify for it, one. And two, you'll have a year of no payments on it. That's two. And there's also the option to where you can possibly get it forgiven.
Yeah, you see, I thought that was a loan that was for payroll for employees. That's a whole different one you're talking about?
Whole different one. And that one will be opening back up soon, and you'll qualify for that one as well. It's called that. So that one is, so there's the economic injury disaster loan.
Okay.
And then there's the Paycheck Protection Program loan.
Right. That's the one I was talking about. But you're talking about economic injury loan that is forgivable, right?
Yeah.
As long as they see it as you're using it for business purposes, even if the business is outside of the United States?
Yeah. Your headquarters is in America, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Got you. No, I got you. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And do you know what the limit is for borrowing on that?
Actually, I think I'm getting it mixed up with the Paycheck Protection Program because I know with the Paycheck Protection,
Yeah, but we can look that up. Yeah, we can look that up.
There were some companies like the Lakers or whatnot. They ended up getting like 3 million. And
right. As long as it's over 100K, I think that would be something that I'd be interested in. I know those interest rates were very low and it can be forgiven under. So do you know the circumstances in which it could be forgiven?
If you use it to invest in your business for the growth of your business, if you can show that it was just you, that you use 75% of the amount of the loan for your business, it can be forgiven.
Okay.
Yeah.
That I think that's something I need to hop on. And they say that one's going to come back online, right? And the interest rates were pretty low for that, right?
Yeah. 3.75%, something like that.
Okay.
That 3% range. So there's the economic injury. So that's actually two loan products. So one of them is still going, and the deadline for that is December 31st. So we'll get you on that one immediately. So that's two loans that you'll qualify for that it makes sense to get on, as also exploring the other options. So then a fourth option would actually be using your stock portfolio as collateral.
Right.
You can actually get a loan against it, whereas your stock can remain intact, but you can get a loan against it. So that can be done with stock. That can be done with gold and silver, precious metals. It can be done with.
Can it be done with crypto?
Yeah, well, so there are companies that do it with crypto.
I think with certain crypto, I think maybe just with Bitcoin, maybe because it's the more stable or more well-known crypto. Yeah.
There are companies who do. If you have a retirement plan in place with, like, let's say a company that you're no longer associated with, you can use that as collateral. So they call them 401k loans or whatnot, or you can do the rollover where you roll it into a self-directed IRA where your retirement plan is in place, but you have the check writing ability or access to it to invest. That's an option. But yeah. So there's 4 options available to you.
Okay, that's very interesting. And I think this may allow me to actually build 2 factories at the same time. Based on what you're saying, like, because the factory equipment is not as expensive as one would think. So I was quoted 50 grand. So with 100 grand, I could literally have 2 factories built, right? So that is something that I want to look at. And after this conversation, please send me the information to work with you on that. Now let's talk about, so the name of your company is what?
The funding clinic.
That's the name of your company?
Yes,
Okay.
yes it is.
Funding Clinic, okay. So when people, I don't know if you advertise this or not, but when people say they want to come and work with you or for you to do these things for them, what type of fees do you charge? Are they based on a flat fee or a percentage of what the loan is, or what? How do you do that?
So I'm paid based on performance, and uh, so usually for the loan, depending on the loan product and the lender we deal with and the relationship with that lender, or if it's a lending partner, there is a percentage of the loan that you pay, a success fee. So let's say there's some lenders, if you get a loan of $100,000, well, your success fee could be up to 12%. So $12,000, but it's only paid after you actually get that loan.
Right.
And there are some products that are lower. So any SBA, so an SBA product, they have, they kind of dictate what that success fee can be. And so you have to go by specific guidelines.
Okay.
So with an SBA loan, that success fee can be between as high as 4% on the back end or 2.5%.
And so what would happen is that the SBA, would they cut you the check, or the borrower has to cut you the check against that funding?
A borrower would do that. So that,
Okay.
that again is based on performance. It's based on that borrower actually having those funds in their bank account, in their hand, and then they're sent an invoice. So, but there are no upfront fees to do business. There are upfront fees if I'm setting up your business credit or repairing your personal credit. But with the loan products, it's based on performance. It's based on me being able to do exactly what it is that I say that I can do, and basically I'm only paid for performance and being able to actually produce. And the goal is to develop long-term relationships. So to not only get you, let's say, $50,000 to $100,000 right now, but to be able to, hey, 3, 5, 10 years down the road, do the same, and for your family and your friends.
Well, I'll tell you this, you know, a lot of people, because I have this YouTube channel and I have a pretty good following on Facebook, I'm definitely going to let people know, because at the end of the day, when you tell me all of this, the next question becomes, man, why isn't everybody coming to you? Why isn't everybody coming to you? Because anybody who's a business person, they have to make choices on getting capital and deployment of capital, right? So somebody like you seems to be somebody who is an integral piece of the puzzle for all business people. And what I would love to see is, and I know what I'm going to do is that, you know, as we go through the steps of the way, I'm going to be posting this and let people know, and I'm going to do videos on this and let people know. And, you know, I don't want this to be a one-time interview that we do. I would like it that whenever we are talking about, you know, deploying, getting capital, that we just do live Zooms and we walk through the process. Because what I want people to do is I want people to see, I don't want my success to be a mystery, right? I want people to be able to reverse engineer the things that I've done. I've done a lot of great things in my life, and I like to show people how I did it. And number one, people don't know how much it costs to build a factory. Once they find out the price, you know, and I share my suppliers. I tell people this is my factory plug, and I've given people the information. But the next step is how people can get funding to build these factories, man. Because some people have businesses, they have products already, but they don't have the manufacturing thing together. And I think that in terms of building businesses in Africa, I think that you're going to play an integral and probably a seminal role in this whole movement as many of our people start repatriating to Africa and doing businesses. Africa is where the raw materials are. And you're going to find this part of this conversation interesting, because I'm sure you got a lot of questions for me too. And I don't want this to just necessarily be, you know, me asking you questions, but I want us to have a conversation. But what I've seen is this, is that, you know, a lot of people complain about the Chinese and the Chinese influence in Africa. And what people have to understand is the Chinese are into manufacturing. And when you're dealing with manufacturing as a business, as a core business, you're dealing with supply chain, right? To make a product, there are many different pieces to make a product. You may need 8 different things to make one product, or sometimes 800 different things to make one product. But what we know is that the base, give me 1 second, the camera dropped. The base of making a product is raw materials. Most of the raw materials on this planet come from Africa. The reason why the Chinese are so entrenched into Africa, is because that's where most of the raw materials are. And when you're doing supply chain, one of the first rules of supply chain is to make sure your supplies are as close as possible to your factory. So what happens is that it is beneficial for the Chinese to actually be entrenched into Africa where the raw materials are. So when you watch the Chinese now, what they're doing is they're giving loans to governments for infrastructure projects. But guess what type of infrastructure projects they're giving loans to, bro? Highways. But guess why it's the highways?
Make access, easy access.
The highways are going from where the raw materials are in the forests, in the sites where you find the bauxite and all of the raw materials, which are not paved roads, and they're backwoods places in Africa, just like in the United States. They're backwoods places that need roads. So what the Chinese are doing is they're loaning African governments money to build roads to where the raw materials are to the seaport and the airports. You can see this in Jamaica right now. In Jamaica, they built a beautiful highway that goes from Kingston all the way into Ocho Rios, right by the bauxite plant. Yeah. So guess what happens? It makes it easier now for the Chinese to have a bauxite raw material location, put a factory next to it, do the processing and make their aluminum. The roads are now built. They can take it to the seaport and sell it to the world market. Instead of in the past, they have to get the raw materials from Africa, have all types of logistical problems in bringing the raw materials deep from the forest, deep from places where the roads aren't paved, onto a shipping container that's hundreds of miles away, ship the raw material to China. China has the factories there, process the raw materials into aluminum or to finished goods, and then sell it in the world market. But this way, in the development of African roads and highways, it saves them money. But it's a win-win situation. They can't lose, because what happens is that if the African governments default on the payments back to the Chinese for building the roads, the Chinese use collateral on the loans, and the collateral that the African governments have is the raw materials. Do you see? They're doing business. So what we know is that in terms of supply chain law, supply chain science, the best place in the world to have a factory is Africa, where all of the supplies are. You see how that works?
Yeah.
So strategically, you want to build a factory closest to where your gold is, to where your iron ore is, to where your bauxite is for aluminum, to where everything is that you need to make a car, let's say. You're using lithium ion batteries. You're using battery chemistry that uses cobalt. Africa has the cobalt. Africa has the coltan. The sense is to build the factories there. So now we, as people in the African diaspora, we are completely missing a gold mine by allowing other people to industrialize Africa. Because in the past, what they did was they just took the raw materials out, put it on boats, brought it to Europe, brought it to China, brought it to the United States, do the processing in the United States, do it in Europe, do it wherever, sell it to the world market. But they start looking at supply chain science and say, why don't we have the factories right next to the raw material? So I'm looking at the thing, bro, and I'm saying, number one, the only way that we get out of this mess that we're in is if we're able to create everything that we need and develop high technology over people who have better technology than us. So that means that all of us who are interested in economics and the liberation of our people worldwide are going to have to be involved in manufacturing in one way or another. So what I'm saying for you, and I want you to sleep on this, I really think that the role that you can play, and you can start looking into this in terms of international funding, not just American funding, but what I would like you to start thinking about is how you can be the ultimate plug for financing factories in Africa. That when anybody worldwide wants to get money to finance a factory in Africa, you're the one-stop shop. It's a streamlined process. It ain't all type of hundreds of forms people got to fill out. That maybe people can just apply on your website. All they got to do is, you know, you might even have the links with the factories for now. Say, okay, and I'll share my links with you. But I think that in the next couple of years, I would love to see you positioned that way. Because you would be able to be a part, you'd be playing a part in solving that problem by providing the financing and the funding apparatus for the entrepreneurs who are going to become the manufacturers. And we'll all make a lot of money. I'm talking billions. We'll all make a lot of money, bro.
A lot of good in that process.
And do a lot of good in that process.
I tell you, that's something I'm passionate about, and that's a vision I have. And this interview is confirmation. And I tell you, I don't have to sleep on it. It's something I want to be involved in.
Well, I mean, you're the person I'm talking to right now in terms of funding, and I'm gonna be working with you. I've already worked with you. There's a reason we're friends on Facebook. It can't just be wasted in liking each other's posts. We have to dig in and leverage each other so that we can do the best good for our people. And if you have the access to this funding that you're talking about, because that's something I've been thinking about. What capital am I going to deploy to build these factories? And if you can provide the solution for me, you can do it for 1,000 more like me. And then Africa now has mouth to talk, because now we have a network of factory owners. You know what I'm saying? Now I have another idea that I would like to throw by you, is that, because I'm not in the finance world, aside from someone who, you know, buys stocks and cryptocurrency and is an investor. But in terms of the world that you're in, what you should know is that in Africa, the banks, particularly West Africa and East Africa, I know for a fact, the banks loan money for mortgages at 22% interest.
Whoa.
Yeah. So most people build their own houses from their pocket, and it might take them 20 years because the bank loan is prohibitive. 22% is crazy. That's also the price for a business loan in Africa. So I've even started my own fund where I loan money to local African businesses at 10%, right? And I don't, it's not like a whole lot, like I'm loaning $5 million. I'm loaning like 5,000 at a time. In Africa, for a business that's established, that has customers, 5,000 goes a long way. That's like loaning someone 100,000, right? I loan at 10% at 1 year term. You always get paid back. It's something that I haven't advertised it. I haven't tried to, you know, scale it. But I also started a construction company in Africa. We did a project this year. We finished. It's a water catchment system, right? And we're going to go into building homes. You saw some of the posts that I made about that, right? Basically, it supplies homes with water in perpetuity for free. After you pay the construction costs, you get water for free from rainfall. That's how we live in the Caribbean. In St. Thomas, I lived in the house for 10 years in the Virgin Islands, and we just had rainfall water. And the roof catches all the rainfall water. It goes into an underground concrete tank that holds 30, 40, 50,000 gallons of water. And you have a pump and a filtration system, and it's drinkable water. And you never pay for water because you get it from the rain. Well, in Africa, it rains much more than it does in the Caribbean. So my thing was, let's bring this technology, let's bring this into Africa. So I did the first project. And so it was with my aunt's house. And so she'll never have to pay for water again. And then there's water issues that you'll see in a lot of the capital cities. And that's because during colonization, there was no real CapEx. There was no capital expenditures for infrastructure. I could go a lot deeper into this, but the long and short of it is that I want to build homes in Africa that have these water catchment systems from construction and also have solar, right? So when you buy the house now, solar with batteries, when you buy the house, there'll be, you're buying, the price of the house comes with basically free electricity and free water, right? Now, we're going to need some type of mortgage vehicle. I want you to think about that. And this mortgage vehicle could literally loan money at 10%. So the mortgage could be 10%. It could be a network of investors who put together an African diaspora mortgage fund where the return would be 10%. And that 10% is higher than what people get from mutual funds. A great performing mutual fund, which typically is 8%. So you have 10% return every year, secured by a home that is not a regular home. It's a home that has free water and free electricity.
A sustainable home.
A sustainable home whose construction value is going to be probably worth more in multiples in terms of retail level. Like what it's going to take to construct it, we can construct a home for probably with a water catchment system, a 4-bedroom home, real nice modern style house, brand new, with solar batteries, water catchment system, free water from rainfall. We probably do that for $60,000. Construction costs, and sell it for $120. So you're making double the construction costs, right? And then mortgage it out
10%.
At 10%.
That's competitive, and man,
I want you to start thinking about that. How we can get together, because when I'm on the ground, I'm looking at all this. I know some people with money, but I've never put together a fund. And I don't like to play with people's money, right? That's why I always do things with my own money, because I don't like to play with people's money. I take it very seriously and I don't want the headache. However, since you're in the world that you're in, I want to put this in your ear, and this shouldn't be a private conversation. This should be a public conversation.
yeah.
I want you to think about how, one, if a group can agree to the type of homes that are built, because there is intermittent electricity issues in Africa, where electricity goes out, and so most people have generators, but you can take that completely out of the picture. The water issue can be taken out if you build the home right. So I'm saying that we have the skill, my company has the skill, and it doesn't have to be just my company, by the way. But I'm saying that if you had a construction fund that can convert into a mortgage fund, right? So the construction loan for the house can convert into a mortgage for the buyer. So the construction, right, loan is maybe 60, then you have a mortgage for 120. So the mortgage will pay off the construction fund, right? The mortgage fund can pay off the construction fund. Then you have 60,000 left over, basically, right? The owners are going to get a $120,000 loan. So that's a whole different thing. You have a construction loan, you have a mortgage loan. You have a fund. But with it, you can make 10%. I would gladly take a $60,000 loan to build one of those houses and pay 10% on that. We could build a house like that, particularly if we're using prefab materials. We could build a house like that in 3 months.
Which countries will be ideal for that? Which countries in Africa?
Every country I went to, first of all, the water catchment system, I've been invited to do it in 12 African countries. Just for my Facebook posts. I've been invited to do it. I did it in Ghana. When it was in the idea stage, I was invited to do it. Then I actually did it. And people can see it. I've been invited to go to Sierra Leone to do it, Nigeria, Botswana, Kenya, Rwanda, Tanzania, Zimbabwe, Zambia, South Africa, Gambia, and there's one more country that I'm missing. So there is a need for this, and no one's doing it. No one's doing anything like this in Africa. Nobody's building a completely sustainable home in terms of energy and water. So if we are able to get funds, construction loans to do this as a company, or any company, not just my company, but let's just say you had a group of people that developed 2 funds. One fund is for construction, one is for mortgage. But to get the construction loan and the mortgage loan, it has to be a sustainable home. The reason is not just because you're a tree hugger, is because you know that it's actually going to be more valuable in the marketplace if someone defaults and you have to resell it, because you're selling more than a house. You're selling free water and free electricity. So you can actually charge double what that house would be in the retail market if it didn't have that. So in other words, an identical 4-bedroom house that doesn't have solar and that doesn't have the water system is going to sell for, let's say, $100,000, let's just say. But one that does, you can sell it for $200,000. So it actually has more market value. So if you say that this is your standard before you can issue out a construction loan and a mortgage, because you want to be able to resell it for a high level, and people in Africa will pay for that because that headache is gone. The headache of electricity and the headache of water is gone with the purchase price of the house. It's revolutionary.
That's a no-brainer.
So we need the funding to be able to do that. And it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't have to be limited to my construction company, but someone like you who's into the finance industry, you might be talking to some people in the mortgage industry, and maybe you might know some VC companies that might be interested in something like, they need to see my project with the water catchment system. I can show them. They need to see the project of homes that have already been built by people in my company. In the version, I can send them pictures. I can show what we can do. But the point of the matter is this can be done and bring real value to the investors and to the consumer. And land is cheap in Africa.
And empower our community throughout the diaspora, because it provides an opportunity to invest. You know, we look at it, we look back at how back in the days in America, how it's promoted to invest in, to purchase savings bonds. So in our community, we create a product, a financial instrument, maybe even a cryptocurrency that's used to invest in projects like this. and I love it. And I can't wait to talk to my wife about this after getting off this.
Yeah, and this will be up tomorrow. This will be on YouTube tomorrow.
Perfect.
So you can, show her this conversation, and the whole world's gonna see this conversation. But somebody like you, I think, is a major piece of the puzzle because you're plugged in to funders. You might have to now look at the international funders or people who have an appetite for doing international deals. But if we could put together a fund, we could start with $1 million fund to be able to do mortgages on 10 homes and then build out from there, build up from there, build up from there. But if the investors are getting 10%, they're going to let other people know that they can buy in. And if this could be done through some type of crowdfunding, like what the Tulsa Real Estate Fund with Jay Morrison did, which I'm a member, I invested, I put money in it. People say it's controversial and this and that, but I saw a brother doing something positive, so I'm gonna put my money in. So I'm saying is that if that could be done for crowdfunding, I wonder if this could be done as a crowdfunding thing too, where we have a mortgage fund for Africa, for African sustainable homes. Because what it also does is it also opens up a pathway for people who want to repatriate and leave America and live in a nice home and don't have to worry about electricity, don't have to worry about water. They have their mortgage payments, and because of COVID, people are able to work remotely now. So you can work online and you can be in Africa in your beautiful home in Africa, but you're not worried about police brutality. You're not worried about white supremacy. You're just worried about building. And then they got the loan from the mortgage fund, and they might think about building a factory. So now they're gonna contact you to see how they can fund their factory. You see how it all works?
I love it. Yes, yes, I do. This is beautiful.
Yeah,
This is needed. And I see this as being integral to the solution to this study, which says that by the year 2053, median Black wealth would be zero. Well, that's based on Black people operating the way that we currently operate. So that's low savings, low investments, putting most of our money into depreciating items like cars and clothes. But by investing, I see, and I actually thought about this before weeks ago. If we're able to, Black Americans, and not just limited to Black Americans, but if we're able to invest in the infrastructure of the world, so like Africa, the Caribbean, wherever, I see that being that opportunity, and this is what you're speaking on.
I do, and it's very real. And I'll be right now. I'm in Florida. I'll be in Africa in the next 2 weeks. So like this is real. This is happening. And I don't know if you've been to the continent yet, but whenever you're ready, I do tours. I started a tour company. You and your wife want to come? I would highly suggest Rwanda for you. For somebody like you, yes, I would highly suggest Rwanda because, first of all, Rwanda is the cleanest place I've ever been. Yeah, like Toronto used to be the cleanest place I've ever been, the cleanest city I've ever been, until I went to Rwanda. The capital city is Kigali. There's not a piece of paper on the ground there. Spick and span. You should check out the Rwanda story and how they built themselves back up. Someone like you would find that extremely inspirational. You can get to Rwanda and you can set up a business online in 3 hours, where you have your business documents ready to open up a bank account in 3 hours. Yeah, it's beautiful. You could just go online and look at modern day Rwanda. The streets are beautiful. The houses are beautiful. I'm talking beautiful. This is where you'd want to live and raise a family. And if you doing,
was it just in '94 or when?
Yeah, they had the genocide then, and they built up the country since then. And I could talk about it at length, and I'll probably do a one of these Zooms about just Rwanda, and then I'll let you know about it. But there's so much I could talk about when it comes to Rwanda. But in terms of every place I've been in Africa, in doing business and raising a family, your wife can walk the street at 3 a.m. and no one's going to bother her by herself. That's how safe it is there. I mean, it's an incredible incredible place. It's the closest thing to Wakanda. They got internet, free internet on public transportation. They teach children computer coding as a second language. Yeah.
That's that's powerful.
Yeah, somebody like you is probably going to need to spread your international wings and go, take a trip to Rwanda. Your wife want to make movies. She ain't got to make them in LA. She can make them in Africa. The African movie business is $1 billion business. A lot of black actors actually are doing movies in Nigeria now, in Nollywood. Vivica Fox, she's a big Nollywood star.
I know that.
Eric Roberts, Eric Roberts, Julia Roberts' brother. He's a white man, but he's a big Nollywood star. They left LA, Hollywood, and gone to Nollywood. Like, there's a lot happening in Africa that a lot of people aren't aware of. And what I'm telling you is that somebody like you need to see what's going on internationally with our people, because you can leverage what you have, because what our people don't have is access to capital on the continent. So you can be that bridge. Like, I might be saying a lot to you right now, but we're not having this conversation on accident.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Somebody like you who does this, you need an international wing that links you to Africa, and I'd be happy to provide that for you. Those introductions for you, because that is the missing piece of the puzzle. Access to cheap capital for people who want to do business in Africa. And if you can be that conduit to access to capital from America, where the capital markets are more mature, so it's less expensive to get capital, and you're able to provide that for people, you can actually be a historical figure in transforming the whole African continent to where it is now, to where it needs to be, because that's the missing piece of the puzzle, bro. And I hate to throw this on you, and I didn't even realize that we were going to have this conversation, but something told me to reach out to you and let's do a Zoom. And when you said, oh, you're free on these times, I said, let's do it tomorrow. Something told me we need to do it as soon as possible. And while we're having this conversation, I'm thinking to myself, wait. This brother solves a huge piece of the puzzle. Not just for me, but people like me and people who's actually trying to do things. And you could be, who's the guy, the Tulsa guy? The Tulsa.
J.B. Stratford.
You can be an international J.B. Stratford for this time, to be able to travel overseas and link people and show people how to access capital and do things in a different type of way, man, because people got the money in America to do things, but you got a system here that's trying to keep people down. Then you got places in Africa who will welcome you with open arms and give you land for free. The Rwandan government will give you free land if you're going to do an agricultural project. They will give you land and hook you up for free to the utilities if you're going to build low-cost housing. This is real. Somebody like you can walk into Africa, and within a year, you have 50, 100,000 acres of land. Look, the opportunities that fall in my lap when I'm in Africa is crazy. I have like I think it's a 30 acre, I don't remember if it's 30 or 40 acres, but I have a very sizable fish farm and a rice farm that just fell into my lap. Right before COVID hit, is because a woman, she had the land.
Which country?
Rwanda.
Okay.
She had the land, she had these fish ponds, and she got older and she didn't want it no more, and so she just basically gave it to me. And all I got to do is pay her some royalties. So now I got a 40-acre fish pond, 12 fish ponds in a rice farm that I'm going to set up, that I might need funding for too, in terms of, getting it up and running and pay back that loan quick. And I give you the numbers to that, you'll be like, that's crazy, in terms of the amount of money that can be raised doing a fish farm. You understand? So a brother like you can go have high-level meetings in these countries and start presenting packages to people in terms of financial packages of how you can bridge the gap from America to, whether it's getting mortgages or getting business loans to do business in Africa.
Brother, you putting a lot on me, and this is what I need. This is what I need, and this is not just a conversation. This is something that's tangible. This is something that we can do. It's not just selling dreams.
No, not at all. This is real. Like I said, I'll be back home on the motherland in a few weeks, literally 2 weeks, and I am getting busy. I have factories to build. I have a fish farm and all these things to tend to, and then you know, I have my construction business. In the construction business, you know, I'm going to be needing capital for different types of things. So, you know, being plugged into you and really using you as a resource, that's going to be happening a lot more, because these things are not ideas that I have. These are all tangible projects. These are not like, it's an idea and it sounds good. Like, I literally have construction equipment in a warehouse in Ghana, like right now. You know what I mean? Like, I literally have workers. I have partners who are construction professionals for the last 50 years. You know what I mean? Who know how to build houses from scratch on edges of cliffs in the Caribbean. You know, like, none of this is theory. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really do have products that I manufacture that I did by hand when I first started, that, you know, I have my own formulas and bottles, and like, I really have that. So none of this is ideas. So now we got a brother who can get me the funding to do what I need to do. It's a whole different type of conversation. And there are other people like me who need to meet people like you and need to know that people like you are available to make these things happen, because we're going to have to do it. You know, like, you got gray hair, I got gray hair. You know, we're the new elders. You know, it's weird for someone to call me that. Then I have to look in the mirror. But we're the new elders, and we got to show and prove, and we got to take this thing to a whole different level.
Right.
And
right.
The way we take it to a different level is we leverage each other. You know, I need you to get me funding. You need me to get you people who need to be funded for worthy projects. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it works. It works. There's no way that we can't work together. I mean, we already have. I've already been your customer. I've already been your client. So it's not like this is theory, but we're going to just, let's take it to another level.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
You know, so
now,
I mean, we've gone into a lot. So I mean, what are you thinking?
This is possible. I need to touch down in Rwanda. You know, at first I was thinking that my first foray into the motherland would be Ghana, but I'm interested in Rwanda as well now. This is amazing.
Yeah, I'm gonna send you some videos on Rwanda, and you can check out the business climate. I'm trying to get this light right, but I want you to be able to check out the business climate in Rwanda, and you will be inspired. You'll be inspired by their story. And I'm telling you, when you land there, it's the cleanest place you've seen, bro. And everything is high tech. You see robots at the airport.
Whoa.
That check your temperature from a distance just to see if you have a fever. They're robots. It's a highly advanced society. This is what I'm trying to tell you. You just don't know about it because our people haven't been told about this. But it's impressive, man. And when I was there, I said, you know what? This is where I gotta live. This is where I gotta live. Like, that's it. Like, this is what we've been waiting for. This is where I gotta live.
Closer to Wakanda. Huh?
It's the closest thing to Wakanda right now that we can see on the African continent. And like, They're so organized, man. You send your passport to them to get your visa. First of all, you can get a visa on entry, but if you want to get a 3-month visa that covers Kenya and Uganda and Rwanda, it's called the East African visa. You can send it to the Rwandan embassy. You get your visa back in you get your passport back in 3 days. That's how efficient they are. And they don't play around. They're the nicest people you're gonna meet. Most beautiful, nicest people, man. And you're there with your wife, trust me, you're gonna have an epiphany and be like, this is the part of the earth I need to be. You know, the price of food is cheap, especially if you're a vegetarian. You can go to the market. I put pictures up. I got 50 pounds of food, 50 pounds of vegetables and, you know, yams, and it came out to like $7 US. Big avocados for 10 cents. Like, the cost of living. So if you're able to work remotely, if your wife works remotely and you work remotely, it would be a good idea to go to Rwanda for a month and just rent out a place for a month and check it out. You will be pleasantly surprised, and I think it will change your life in terms of your life's trajectory and what you need to do. So if you don't even live there full time, maybe you just go back and forth. But it's important for those of us with a certain mindset to have relationships on the continent.
I agree. This is so inspiring, and it's given me a lot to really think about. But all of this is tangible. It's not something that's just a fleeting thought, a conversation, or something where rather than just, you know, with their chest out, throwing out these ideas that will never take place.
No.
I love it. One thing that I've always appreciated about you, like I remember you from your poetry days, and I remember you had a blog back in the days, and you had what was it, movement tunes?
Yeah.
I remember way back in the days, and you've always provided solutions. I remember back in the days you were talking about how somebody can move to the Caribbean and buy land and things like that, and your presentations on purchasing stock and cryptocurrency, and I've always appreciated what you bring to the table, and this is something that's much needed.
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought that up. You know, I didn't want to leave this conversation without. So what stocks you excited about right now?
Tesla. I'm very excited about Tesla. I'm excited about Apple.
Apple.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Apple.
What's impressive about Apple is almost everybody has an Apple product. That's one. Two, that they have a lot of cash on hand.
They do.
A lot. There was something where Trump threatened to fine certain companies that had international headquarters or whatnot, and to encourage them to bribe them. Well, I wouldn't use bribe. Encourage them to move back to America. Apple just paid the fine and said, "Hey, you know, it's no problem. We'll just pay it." Then I looked a few days ago what they have. First, they were the first $1 trillion company. And then they have so much cash on hand. It's like, you know, they have a cult following. My wife, she made me get an Apple phone. I was so against it for years, and I said I would never do it. And I ended up, I said, I'll go ahead and do it. I'm not doing a computer, but and then Tesla, I'm impressed that the whole story of Elon Musk, you know, a lot of people don't know when he was like 12 years old, he created like a video game, a computer game, and he sold that game for like $500.
Right.
And as a teenager, he ended up getting a job writing for like a computer magazine. And then, you know, he became one of the founders of PayPal.
Right.
When they sold PayPal, he took his money and he had all these, well, let's back it up. In college, so he's always been interested in space.
Right.
A lot of people don't know, while in college, he created an organization that was on several college campuses to basically bring about the idea of private citizens being able to travel to space. Then once he got his money from the PayPal, him selling out or whatever, he basically put all of his money into his ideas. So with SpaceX, which is actually about 20 minutes away from where I live, SpaceX, where you see shuttles and whatnot, big rockets and everything, put money into Tesla.
Right.
And I forgot the other company, but
The Boring Company.
Wait, what is it?
The Boring Company with the underground tunnels. And then also, what's the other one with the internet? Something link? Space Link or something, but basically he's putting satellites in the sky to provide internet for the whole planet.
Like, we have to be innovative as well. We can't just, like, the ideas that you're presenting, this is innovative. This is something that, from a material perspective, of course, we can make a lot of money. But this will impact the lives of those who invest in this and those who, let's say, move into these homes. They'll move into sustainable homes. They'll move into futuristic homes. They'll move into a home that, again, some of the largest expenses, utilities, well, that's taken care of. And they have something that's sustainable, and they don't have to worry about the outages. Let's say power outages and issues with water. And I think that's something great. And I see so much opportunity to whereas we can begin to raise up. Well, Imhotep among us, those brothers who have something of value to bring to the planet, and is being selfless. Yeah, you're able to benefit and you're able to take care of your family along the way, but you're able to provide something that's tangible to the world that the world can benefit from. So just like many of us, we look up to people like Elon Musk, at some point, rather we need people to know about you. And
yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate that, but what Elon Musk is doing is so light years above anything that I would be doing right now. I have a lot of catch up to do. I mean, this guy with SpaceX, the problem was it was expensive to fly to space because when they used the rocket that cost like $100 million to build, the rocket would be discarded. It wouldn't be used again. And so the first thing that he said is that we have to come up with reusable rockets. And he solved that problem through physics, where, he got a bunch of physicists together and they have the rocket, and the rocket literally comes back and lands. I don't know if you've seen those videos of the rockets kind of landing in reverse. In the Tesla vehicles with the full self-driving, and I mean, he's really impressive, a very impressive person. So yeah, I appreciate the kudos, but as a people, we're gonna have to create about 100 Elon Musk, and one thing you said was not only that he had the intelligence, but he had the funding to bring his dreams to reality. So we have to, get into that part. And on the stocks issue, actually, because I do very well in the stock market, I get about 100% return a year. And I was thinking of starting an ETF one of these times, because people always ask me to take their money and invest it, and I always say no. But I look at ARK Invest and what Kathy Wood is doing. I don't know if you're familiar with ARK Invest, but they're doing some really great work. And the quickest way to become a billionaire is to actually manage other people's money, And I'm strongly thinking about it, because if 1 million of our people basically had the investments that I had, I would have been able to, in the last 5-6 years, I'd been able to make them about 100% a year. And the most mutual funds is making people 8%, So that's something that I'm thinking about, like on a financial level, to actually have an official ETF that I have in the stock market with people, where I pick the different companies. But at the end of the day, like you said, we're going to have to do our own. Our companies are going to have to be on the stock market. It's one thing to be an investor in other people's companies. But what about being investors in our own companies and having ETFs on our funds and all of that? So that's where we're going to have to go. But I do want to talk to you about Apple. I'm concerned about Apple, man.
What's your concern?
I'm concerned about Apple stock, man. Here's my concern. We see that Apple really grew during Steve Jobs' time because of the revolutionary products that were made, where you had the iPod, iTunes, then the iPhone and the iPad, right? But ever since he passed away, I'm not seeing Apple really produce anything besides iPhone updates. And maybe now they got the iWatch, but no one's really excited about that. So that's telling me that, you know, in every business you have like a key man clause. That person is the person who's indispensable to your business, and if he's gone, the business kind of goes astray. But I feel like I'm not sure that Tim Cook, well, I'm not that I'm not sure, I'm confident that Tim Cook, the present CEO of Apple, is not rolling out new innovations. So I feel like Apple's living off of its steam, off of its fumes. Like, there are people who are committed to Apple because that's just what they love. But and there's something to be said for cult followings, right? They are with you no matter what. Like, you can't criticize it, right? Because they're part of a cult. But I'm looking at it, I'm saying, how sustainable is Apple going to be if they don't put out any real new revolutionary products that are on par with how the iPhone, you know, really took off, and how the iPad took off, to like now tablets are in, and you know, they were a leader in terms of innovation. I don't see that anymore. So that concerns me about Apple. The other thing that concerns me about Apple is that their flagship product, which is the iPhone, they keep doing updates to the iPhone, but what I learned a few years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, there was a report put out, and people who have iPhones have confirmed this, is that when you have the older version, they purposefully slow down the operating system so that you'll buy the more updated version. I don't like that. And I don't know how long that could be sustainable, basically forcing you to buy the new product. Whereas then I look at Tesla, you buy a Tesla, man, and you get over the air updates for free. Like the other day, I have a Tesla, and the other day they increased my brakes in terms of the energy regeneration of the brakes to an over the air update. I didn't have to go to a Tesla shop and pay more for it, whatever. Yeah, they do that. And I know you have an electric vehicle because you posted about it. But with the Tesla electric vehicles, bro, they literally improve your car overnight through over-air software updates. Yeah, it's real like that. So I'm seeing this type of innovation, and I'm looking at Apple, and I'm saying, well, if I got $1,000 to put into stocks, why would I put money into Apple when I don't see that they're innovating, and I see that they're actually sabotaging product from customers because that product happens to be a little older? Like, that's crazy. So that's what concerns me about Apple. You know, I mean, I look at their stock chart and all of that, but I don't know. I mean, that doesn't concern you in terms of their lack of innovation? I mean, have you noticed
that is a concern. I think they have at least another 5 years, if not more, to, you know, still be the stock or the company that everybody looks at.
Yeah, because they got so much money.
But what company is it that really like sticks out to you?
I mean, okay, so as a long-term investor, to me, there's no safer bet than Tesla. Tesla, you see, when you invest in Tesla, you're actually investing in more than one company. You're investing in a car company. You're investing in a battery company. You're investing in because they make their own batteries.
All about that.
You're investing in a software company. They do their own software write-ups. They do their own and they have their own hardware for their software. They make their own chips. So you have a software hardware you have a hardware and software company. It's a computer hardware and software company. They make their own chips and they do their own software programs, right? So that's 3 different companies in one already that I just named for you. Car, batteries, software, and hardware. And full self-driving. That's a different company on itself. Solar panels. They have solar roofs where you can have the shingles be doubled as solar panels. And they have an indoor house battery. So that's 6. So you can power your home with the Tesla Powerwall. And then they have the 7th thing is they have an auto trader program in hardware. And the auto trader is an energy arbitrage software unit that allows you to store your energy and sell it back to the grid based on the prevailing prices in real time of energy, because energy prices are different in different times of the day. Whoa. So literally, you can use that software. For instance, the cost of energy might be in the daytime when they have peak power. That's when the cost of energy is the most. It might be, let's just say 10 kilowatts per hour. Then at night, when everyone's asleep, where there's less demand, it may be 2 cents per hour. So it allows you to store the energy in your battery at night and sell it back to the grid when the prices are the highest. So you can play around with this where your house becomes a power plant. It's called auto bidder software. So you literally have 7 different companies, but not only that, they're also an auto retailer. Most car companies are not retailers. Remember that. Most car companies, they have dealerships that buy it from the factory and they sell the car. And they sell the car and then they make money from servicing the car. The internal combustion engine vehicles, Tesla does it all. Remember, you can buy Tesla online. There's no haggling, there's no nothing. So Tesla is not only the manufacturer, they're also a retailer. Honda's not a retailer. Toyota's not a retailer. Mercedes is not a retailer. You become a retailer for them. Tesla, you don't become a retailer for Tesla. You don't open up a Tesla dealership. You see what I'm saying? So I've named about 8 different companies all under one company called Tesla. So you literally can put your money into Tesla and you've diversified by putting your money into Tesla. The other thing about Tesla is that the industries that Tesla is in are the biggest industries in terms of market cap. Energy, transportation. Those are the 2 biggest, those are $1 trillion industries. Those are the 2 biggest industries in the world. And Tesla is at least 5 years ahead of everybody in terms of battery technology and car technology. So you become the #1 company for transportation, which is the biggest industry next to energy. And they are going to have a monopoly in the energy industry because they have battery technology that they manufacture that no one else has. So as far as I'm concerned, for my money, Tesla.
That makes so much sense. And I came across an article which said that they're having a problem. They're having issues getting their, is it the lithium from China? So that so he's looking at purchasing a mine, lithium.
Yeah. They're doing their own lithium manufacturing. What he found out is that the lithium deposits that are just in the state of Nevada could be enough lithium for all the houses and cars in the United States. And he figured out a different process to make lithium, to refine the lithium with table salt, just table salt. You should check out Tesla Battery Day online. They had a battery day maybe a month ago.
I remember hearing about it.
Yeah, you should check it out. Just go on YouTube and put in Tesla Battery Day, and he's up there and he explains everything. And it's so monumental what he's talking about for people who understand what he's saying. But basically, they have a vice grip on the energy and the transportation industry for the next 5 years, and they're not slowing down. Literally, the internal combustion engine vehicle will probably die in the next 5 years. And GM, Ford, all of them are most likely going to go out of business. Because they already sell their cars at a loss. A lot of people don't know that. You know where the money is in the car business?
Financing.
Financing and repairs.
Wow.
Parts, repairs, service. You don't have any of those problems with an electric vehicle, as you know.
I've been an electric vehicle owner for over a year. I have a Nissan Leaf.
Yes.
That was my entry into it. And my next one will be a Tesla. And I can tell you, after a year of owning an electric vehicle, I have no plans on going back to a gas vehicle. I live in, as you know, in LA or California. The prices are insane, gas prices.
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact I can plug up at the house, or there are charging stations all around.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of the neighborhood that I'm in, I could be, so I live in Inglewood City Hall, there's a charging station. I go to Culver City in the mall, you know, if it's not at a gas station, at a city hall, at a police station, you know, there's stations all over. I've been all throughout California, and there's been times that I had that fear that I was going to run out without finding a station.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to pull into a grocery store parking lot, or like a Walmart, and find a charging station. So it's like I am totally sold on electric cars.
That's the future. That's the future.
Yes.
Like you, I haven't been to a gas station in over a year. And, you know, to charge up my vehicle, to charge up like 150 miles cost me about $2.30. You know, so,
you know, it takes a little longer than it would to you know, gas fill up, but it's worth it. You know, it's worth it.
absolutely worth it. And then the maintenance costs are zero. I had to change a tire, put some windshield wiper fluid in, that's it.
Worry about the oil changes. What else? What else is it? You know, do I mean, I love it. I'm sold. I'm sold.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. And take a look at the Model 3, and you might get a nice little trade-in for your Nissan Leaf for your Model 3, because when you get that, you're not going to want, I mean, the car drives itself. And you can, the other side of it too is that pretty soon you'll be able to like loan out your car to like a Tesla Uber system, where the car drives itself and you're at home and the car is making money for you, and you go into a profit sharing with Tesla because they're going to have a self-driving Uber system. Yeah, so that's why I bought Tesla vehicles, is because it was really an investment. This is the first time your car could actually become an asset and you're not a taxi driver. Because they did the math, and most cars are sitting still 90% of the time. They're parked in your garage 90% of the time. You're only driving your car out of maybe 10% of the time. So 90% of the time you could put it to use and have it make money for you. Yeah, yeah, I'll send you some stuff. Elon Musk talked about it. The Tesla, it's called the Robo-Taxi Network that they're going to put together next year or two. So that's when I went ahead and got that just for that.
And someone was telling me that there's some that can mine Bitcoin or mine a cryptocurrency.
Okay, yeah, I'm not familiar with that, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised, man. We're moving at a fast pace to a new world. And those of us who understand it and are part of it are going to make the lion's share, because there's a big wealth transfer happening from, you know, the world changing. This is literally like the 1920s, where you got the airplane, you've got airplanes being invented, you've got the car being manufactured, you've got radio, you've got, you know, television coming on board, you've got all these things are happening at one time, and those people who have invested in those things are going to make the lion's share of the money and be the new moguls. They'll be the new JP Morgans and the new Vanderbilts, you know, when they're building railroads and you need steel, so you need Carnegie, you need these people. So those people who understand these things are going to make the next wave of money, you know, and I don't plan to miss out on it.
Have you ever watched the series, The Men Who Built America?
I probably have. It deals with JP Morgan and Carnegie and Vanderbilt and those types of guys?
Rockefeller.
Rockefeller, yeah. I spent a lot of time studying those guys, man. A lot of time studying those people. Very important people to study. Very important. And that's what Africa needs is, and then, you know, when you go to Africa, any country you go to, Africa is under construction. There you see all types of construction projects happen in Africa, major municipal projects, because it's under construction now. And there's a lot of wealth being poured into Africa, a lot of investments being poured into Africa to transform Africa to where it needs to be. I just don't want to miss out on that. And I want to be one of those men that would have been in that movie, Men Who Built Africa, right? The men who built America. Those were very important men who provided the financing for the industrialization of America and made money from the industrialization of America. And I think we have to ask ourselves, which ones of us are going to make money from the industrialization of Africa?
I say the sustainable industrialization.
Absolutely, because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense if it's not sustainable.
Are you familiar with the Igbo apprenticeship program? It's called Imu-Ahia. All right, so after the I believe there was a civil war in Nigeria, wherein
the Biafra War, yeah,
where a lot of Nigerians had gone into being professionals. Where after that, there was a huge wave of unemployment. So they created a system called Imu-Ahia, and if somebody from Nigeria can correct me, because it's spelled IMU-AHIA, Imu-Ahia. And what it is a businessman in the community will take in a group of young men, young boys. He'll take them in. He'll take care of them for a period of time between 5 to 8 years. And basically, he'll teach them how to run his business, teach them all aspects of the business, and he'll take care of their expenses. Well, after their time is up, he'll basically set them up in their own business and give them their own group of young boys to run the business. And if they need capital, provide them with that capital, or provide them with the capital to start his business. So the richest black man in the world is a product of that system, Alike Dangote.
Yeah.
And he'll tell the story. He'll say his uncle set him up in his business, gave him a loan of $3,000. Well, he trained him in business, gave him $3,000, and gave him a group of young men to work his business. Now he's the richest black man in the world, and most black people around the world don't know him or know his story.
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of people don't know that, you know, one of his business interests is cement factories. And when I was in Ghana doing my project, I had to buy Dangote cement. Like there's cement bags with his name on it, Dangote cement. And so a lot of the homes and the municipal projects that are being built in West Africa is actually literally using his cement. Look at that. I used his cement.
That's powerful. That's powerful, brother.
It's real. It's real. Like what you said is so real. I'm smiling inside because I remember the cement bags. Dangote cement come from a cement factory because we had to use the cement to make concrete. You mix it with sand and water. It's real. This is in Ghana. So it's real. This is all real. This is all real. None of this is made up. Like, he's wealthy for a reason. He's in an industry that's necessary for the development of a country and the development of a continent. That's why he has market share. So he's going to, of course, be a billionaire. People need cement to build, you know, houses and bridges and anything in terms of infrastructure. You need cement. So if you tap into that, you have a supply chain and distribution chain for your cement, and it's good cement, you are mathematically going to become a billionaire. There's no way around it. You know, he owns, I think he owns rice processing factories as well. So I think 80% of the rice in Nigeria is through him. Yeah. So imagine if every time people eat rice, you get money. You know, he's wealthy for a reason, man. And any of us can do it. And that's why you're important, because we need that funding. We need that funding, bro. We need the
yes.
We need
I'm
that
ready.
funding. We
ready.
need that funding. We gotta do this, man. We need 1,000 Dangotes. And he started with $3,000 of funding. We need that funding. We need you to be our uncle. We need you to be our uncle. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
You're going to provide that funding for us to do what we need to do so that we can take over these industries, because if we don't, somebody else will.
Right.
And the interesting thing about Africa that you'll find very interesting is that, you know, when you start businesses in Africa, many times you'll have a monopoly. How can I put this? So if you live in Japan, you will see the electronics that will be adopted in the United States 1 year later, because Japan is 1 year ahead of the United States in terms of electronics. They just take electronics very seriously. So whatever is big there usually will be big in the United States in a year. Well, whatever you see in the United States, you can bring that to Africa and you'll be a year ahead of everyone else, or maybe in 5 years. Yeah. And there are entrenched families who've been making money off of just different industries that you think that a lot of people be in. I'll give you an example. I was in Tanzania. I was in Dar es Salaam last year, or 2 years ago. And I was looking at the supply chain for a factory. And because I make herbal, you know, herbal remedies, I need bottles as part of my supply chain. And so I had to find a company that, you know, sells bottles. So someone told me that go to this company in Dar es Salaam to, you know, negotiate a deal for bottles, like thousands and thousands of bottles at a time. So I went, and when you go in Tanzania and you want to do business on any serious level, you're usually talking to Arabs or Indians. Okay? At every step of the way, if you want to do business, the business owners are usually Arabs or Indians. And so I went, and it was a young guy, and clearly he's Indian. And so, you know, we start negotiating, and we come up with a good deal for the bottles. And we just start talking, you know. He's cool, I'm cool with him. And he's there, I'm there with my brethren from Tanzania, who's from Tanzania, speaks, you know, Swahili and all of that. And he brought me there, so I'm there sitting with my brethren from Tanzania, talking to this Indian dude, and I say, so where are you from? He goes, I'm from here, I'm from Dar es Salaam. I said, no, where are you really from? Where are you really from? Like, where are your parents from? Where are you all from? So I'm from India, you know, you probably wouldn't know exactly where. And I looked at him, I said, where are you from, Uttar Pradesh? He said, yeah, how did you know? It's because I have friends from India, you know what I mean? And I know about Uttar Pradesh, and I studied a lot of Indian history. That's just something about me that for some reason, I just studied Indian history at some point in my life. So I know about different regions of India and the split with Pakistan and all. So we got to really talk, and I'm big into Indian food. So we got to talk. And the guy like really starts warming up to me as we talk about India. And he goes, yeah, that's India, but you know, I really love it here. I said, what do you mean, like, you love it here? He said, no, I really love it here in Tanzania. I love it in Africa. I love it in Tanzania. I said, what do you love so much about being here? You know what he said to me? He said, I love being here because there's no competition. Listen to what he's saying to me. He said a lot with that statement. Terrance, he said there's no competition. So what he's saying is that his family is the only family making bottles. Dar es Salaam is a population of a city of over 12 million people. That means that all the bottles that are made domestically that pass through people's hands, whether it's water bottles, this bottle, that bottle, soap, liquid soap bottles, come through his factory. And what he's saying is there's no competition. He's the only game in town. And he had the temerity to say it to me because he didn't see me as possible competition that I would ever think in my mind as a black man in Africa. And my brethren who's from Tanzania, he didn't even realize he'd insulted him by saying there's no competition, because he doesn't see that any of us would ever get into our heads that we would put up a factory that makes bottles in Tanzania to compete with him. So from now until perpetuity, he's thinking in his mind, we're gonna keep getting money. And the other thing he said in that statement is, I'm getting money in Tanzania. It's so easy for me to get money in Tanzania because I have a monopoly, but I can't get money in India. He said, that's what he said in that statement. He can't get money in India. So he's in Africa getting money because Africans ain't taking business and manufacturing seriously. Whereas if he goes to India, there's a manufacturing, of bottles every block. He turns, he can't compete. There's too much competition, whereas in Africa, there's no competition. This is important for us to know, which means that if you go and you set up something like even something I told people about cardboard boxes. So Africa has 5 of the 10, and I posted something, these are 5 or 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world. I posted something like that on Facebook with the article, right? 6 of the 10 fastest growth. So for your economy to grow, that means that you have what you call a velocity of money, that money's moving very fast. And the way money moves very fast is if you have goods that originate from your country. That's how the price of your currency raises up and all of that, that people are trading their currency for your goods, right? That's why China is so strong. They're manufacturing everything and they're exporting, and people are trading currency for Chinese goods. So what happens is that you have a growing economy. So if you have a growing economy and people making goods, that means that people need to ship goods. When you make bottles of juice and whatever you're making that's helping grow the economy, you need to have cardboard boxes. But guess what? I talk to people who are business owners and people who make products in Africa. You know what their biggest problem is? They have to wait to ship because they have to wait for a boat to come from China with cardboard boxes because there are no manufacturers of cardboard boxes in their respective countries.
Well.
So they might have their product ready to go, but they have nothing to box it in. So you have to wait for the boat to have, the millions of boxes that's going to come in from China before they can package. So one of the most lucrative things you can do in Africa right now is to have a cardboard box factory. See, so when you see these things and you know these things, you know what's necessary for a society to build, you can just get your niche. And you literally, like the Indian dude said, you'll have no competition. This is what I want our people to understand. So now when somebody says they want to build a cardboard box factory and they can tell you, I can make $1 million of profit just in a month. Because now people don't have to wait for the boats to come in from China and deal with customs clearance and all that. The boxes are made in Senegal, they're made in Tanzania, they're made in Gambia, they're made in Botswana, they're made on the ground, and they can supply all of the business people to be able to export their goods. You can definitely go to somebody and say, I need funding for a factory. Someone like you, they can come to you and say, yo, Terrance, this is what the business is looking like. I'd be the only person making cardboard boxes in my country. I need I need $500,000 to do this factory, and I know it can make money. Can I help you out? See what I'm saying? These are the types of conversations you're gonna start having, because the opportunities in Africa is literally like a field that's just fertile for any seed to drop and turn into a beautiful fruit tree. The opportunities are just there for those people who are thinking, but those people who are thinking, a lot of times they get a roadblock with funding.
That's where I come in.
That's where you come in. So, bro, we've been on this for a couple hours. We've been chopping it up.
Man.
And we can definitely do a part 2 whenever you're ready. Let's do a part 2 when I get the funding and start building the factories, and we can start talking about the details of that so people can see it's real. Let's do that part 2. So the first stage is I'm going to go back home to the continent, and I have to register my products with their Food and Drug Administration. Once the products are registered and I have them as part of the market, because I'll have to export them from here just to get the market used to them, then I'll be able to have a lower price point for the local population because I'll be manufacturing on the ground there. So once I do stage 1 of registering the products and getting a warehouse for the products that I make here and start getting some sales for them, and people getting an appetite for the products, and then I will put up the factory. So we're looking at a couple months, but you can advise me of what I need to do to get that funding in place. And I think that program you talked about that's about to come online is probably the best way, the lowest rates, and it's the forgivable loans and all of that. That might be the first steps that we take. So, just let me know, contact me. Let's just work behind the scenes and see the best way to go about this funding and the different funding options. And we're looking maybe for the next 3 months before we pull the trigger.
I'm ready, brother.
Yeah, man. Is there anything else?
Get this going, and I'm ready. I'm ready, and I'm ready to touch down on the continent and start putting these plans into action. Because if you think about the sustainable home, what I was also thinking about was having that home come with a cryptocurrency mining machine. So not only is that home, you're purchasing a home that comes with electricity, it comes with water, it's also literally printing money.
That's something interesting to look at. The sky's the limit. As long as we can get a mortgage fund to be able to finance the construction and the selling of the home to the end user at a competitive interest rate compared to what's there, which wouldn't be hard to do, at 22%, we can beat that. If we can just get some folks together, whether it's financial institutions or private investors, sleep on it. Think about how that would be put together. But if we could do that, we could start with $1 million fund. $1 million fund, and maybe do about 10 homes. I think that it can be done, man. And then just
it can be done.
Turning over the fund. So think about it. Think about how it would be put together. Talk to people in your circle about doing kind of like an international mortgage fund for African sustainable homes of solar and water systems that come with the purchase price. And let's see what we can do, because I can build it. I can build it. I just need a funding apparatus.
We're gonna make this happen, brother.
All right. So share your website with people.
Sure.
How people can reach you.
Sure. thefundingclinic.com. That's my business website. My page on Facebook is The Funding Clinic. And also I have a group called The Money Tribe, or hashtag Money Tribe, where I share a lot of information on a lot of the books that I come across. I share the ebooks, courses, apps that I use. to share information on how we can become solution oriented, so that those who currently say that they don't have income or have the money to invest in the projects that we're talking about, my goal is to develop those investors. So again, Terrance Wilson, Terrance SetepenRa Wilson on Facebook, the Money Tribe, hashtag Money Tribe, the Funding Clinic. And say, Brother Hayru, man, this has been amazing, brother. Thank you so much. It's such an honor. You've given me so much to think over. I'm telling my wife we need to go to the beach and just I'm gonna take my pad and start writing some stuff out.
Yeah, man. That's beautiful, man. That's the reason why I wanted to have these conversations. You know, I've been fortunate to meet some really fascinating people in my lifetime, and I've had very, very life-altering conversations with people with great minds. And I've always said to myself, I wish that the rest of the world could hear these conversations. So I decided to, let me just put up a YouTube channel and just link up with people who I think people need to hear from. People who are actually doing things tangibly that people need to hear from, and they can just put on a conversation, you know? And so I wanted to be able to provide that service to people. And the feedback I've been getting for the last few podcasts that I've done, you know, you're number 3. And, you know, I plan to do a couple every week, but I want it to be a library of people who are going to play a role in the resurrection of our people. So imagine if, you know, we're at a unique time where literally your great grandchildren or your family line could literally press play and see you talking and putting your ideas together as to how you became who you became. Like, we're able to document. Imagine if we could see our ancestors from 1,000 years ago on video, and they're able to talk to us, and they're having conversations, and you can see who they were. Like, we can provide that for our future generations now. You know what I'm saying? I think it's incredibly important for us to document these things. I mean, imagine if 10 years from now, I have 100 factories in Africa, and it's able to be documented that the idea for me getting the funding from it came from me talking to you, and you were the one able to provide. Like, this could be a historical moment in terms of how that $3,000 led Dangote to be able to have cement that I'm buying. You know what I'm saying?
That uncle.
That uncle. Like, this could be a historical moment in terms of how Africa changes towards becoming industrialized, and brothers now judging their value and their worth based on factories we build instead of shoes we buy. You see what I'm saying? So all of this is important, man. I'm just glad that I was able to get you on. And really, the idea to get you on was literally just like an idea that snapped in my head. Let me get this brother on. Sent you the email through Facebook, and here we are. You know, it's less than 24 hours. So
I am honored.
I'm honored too, man. I'm honored to have you on. I think that you're going to play a role bigger than you ever knew. I honestly feel that you are going to play a role in the history of the rise of our people greater than you even thought. Because I know the pieces because of my travels, and I know what's missing, and I know who's serious and who's not serious. I know I've done business with you. It's tangible. What you said I could get is what I got. See, so I know you as somebody who's legitimate. You're not just talking, and you produce, and you're accountable. And what I'm saying is that men like you are the men we need to get to where we need to get. You play a role in that. And the crazy thing is that I don't even think you realize it until maybe this conversation, what type of role you're going to play in terms of the historical importance of your life and people knowing you and what you're going to be able to provide for people to actually take us to the next level as a people. So I'm honored to have you. for what you're about to do. All right, bro?
Peace and prosperity, brother. Thank you so much, man. And time to move. Let's make this happen.
All right. So I'm going to post this on Monday because Monday is usually the best days to post. The weekends aren't the best days to let people know something's been posted. So I will make a post on Monday morning where people can link up to the video. But what I will try to have is it'll be on YouTube tomorrow, hopefully. And then I will let you know it's up. You can send it to your people, but I'll make a public post on Monday morning where it will get the most traction.
Perfect, brother. Perfect.
All right.
Hey, brother. Thank you so much. I'm honored, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great weekend.
All right.
And I will be in touch.
Yes. Peace, bro. All right.
Prosperity.
All right.